right, good Sunday morning, Steeler Nation. Welcome to North Park Lounge, Richland, and the Hilltop Event Center, where we broadcast live before every Steelers game and, of course, our post-game show immediately following after. This is Steel City Sunday. I'm John Phillips alongside Bill Akins. Good morning, Bill. How are you today?
Good morning, John. How we doing?
Okay, Bill's got the same headset now. I think we're in good shape. I mean, technical issues in the first week are expected. Last week, much better. I think rolling forward, we're going to be super duper. I don't know if the Steelers are going to be super today. Not really holding out a lot of hope, to be quite honest with you. We are experiencing some turbulent times here in Steeler Nation, no question about it. Steelers at New England Patriots today. We're going to get you warmed up for it. They kick off at 1 p.m. from Gillette Stadium. We got a monster show, huge show, giant show. I can't even begin to describe how big this show is for you today. We have 5 guests in our pregame show. We've got, of course, Mike Ostie and the mic drop at 10:30. Mike, the managing editor of West Virginia Sports Now, part of the Pittsburgh Sports Now family of websites that cover sports here in Western Pennsylvania. In the 11 o'clock hour, in our Behind Enemy Lines segment, we've got Matt Peralt, former talk show host in Boston at WEEI All Sports Radio. He's an adjunct professor at University of Nevada, Las Vegas. He is a podcaster. He is a gambler of sorts, if you will. 2 primary podcasts that he does, Bostonian versus the Book, and he does the Daily Juice. Those are all found on Spotify and wherever you find your podcasts. He's a graduate of UMass Amherst, native of New England. He's going to join us to talk about the Patriots at 11:15 a.m. At 11:45, our Consigs Picks segment, where we talk about sports betting, specifically the NFL. Professional sports bettor John Murgis is going to be joining us. I'm very excited to have John on the show. He was not in the mob, but he was connected to the mob. He's from the Chicago area, and he was a bookmaker. He ran book for the Chicago Syndicate back in the 70s and 80s before he got out of that business. He's been profiled on various websites, newspapers before. John Murgis is going to join us at 11:45 a.m. this morning to talk about the betting lines and a little bit about how the industry has certainly changed from the days when he got into it to where it is now. And then, of course, in our 12 o'clock hour, Paul Zeiss of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette coming on for his weekly hour. We'll talk with Paul. And then, of course, at 12:30, our national NFL insider, Zig Fracassi of Sirius XM's NFL Radio, a broadcast veteran of over 35 years, been at Sirius XM's NFL Radio for the past 22. In our post-game show, once the game is done, you can come back and join us. We've got Jerry DePaula, who covered sports in Pittsburgh for nearly 40 years, was at the Tribune Review for most of that time. Jerry's retired now, but he's joining our post-game show starting this week. We'll have him somewhere near 4:45, 5 p.m., and we'll take him for an entire hour. You can certainly leave your messages on social media for us. We broadcast live on X. We broadcast live on Facebook, if you can find my Facebook page, and, of course, on YouTube, all at Steel City Sunday. So we'll take your comments, and we'll certainly look forward to those. Like and subscribe, as the kids like to say. We opened up a TikTok, apparently, this week.
We did indeed.
That one is just completely foreign to me. I mean, and since we started doing this, like this past week, I was on the road in Mississippi. I was in Louisiana. It was my first time down in all those 2 states. I also made a quick trip over to Mobile. I was in New Orleans for 2 nights. First time on Bourbon Street. I'm not going to say it got the best of me, but it got the best of me. I'm just, for a Tuesday night, it was a pretty hopping scene. It was pretty awesome. But if you're noticing, we're giving you daily content now. We're at least giving you some shorts. You're going to get something from me every day. Bill has a segment that he's doing called Bill's Breakdown. I believe that's on Wednesdays now. We'll be providing more content as we kind of progress here. And, it takes a village to build something, and we're only in the beginning stages of week number 3. We hope you're enjoying this, and we're excited to be able to bring it to you. Okay, Steelers and Patriots, week 3. I have been sounding the alarm for quite some time about how bad this team is. And I think, everybody was kind of excited about the last-second victory against the Jets in week 1. And in the aftermath of that, oh, by the way, we allowed somebody who quarterbacked here for 6 games last year, and then we benched him after he was 4-2 in favor of somebody else who had won a Super Bowl somewhere else. And the kid threw for over 200 yards and a couple touchdown passes. He ran for, 40, 50 yards on us. We gave up 181 yards on the ground. We gave up over 400 yards of offense, or close to 400 yards. It was 400 yards of offense. And we looked terrible in the process of doing so in a 2-point win. And then, of course, last week, look, they had the lead at halftime, the Steelers did, against Seattle. They were tied after 3 quarters. And once they got down by 3 and the Caleb Johnson miscue happened the way it did, it was insurmountable at that point. They were down by 10. They managed a scoring drive right after that, but it was only for 3. And then they promptly allowed a couple big plays, and then boom, Seattle was in the end zone and the game was over, 31-17 final score. If you look at the numbers, Bill, and I'll bring you in here just to kind of talk a little bit about this, through 2 games, 65 points given up, almost 800 yards of total offense. They've given up a 100-yard rushing game to opposing running backs in the first 2 games so far this year. They no sacks from T.J. Watt, no sacks from Cam Hayward. They have looked terribly bad defensively. Now, they are going to get Derek Harmon back today. Their first-round draft pick out of Oregon has been sidelined since he suffered some sort of lower extremity injury in the last preseason game. He is now back up to speed of some kind. He was listed as questionable on Friday's injury report, but by all indications from everybody who covers this team on a daily basis, Ray Fittipaldo, I think Brian Batko wrote about it. Brooke Pryor from ESPN, who's been covering the Steelers for 7 or 8 years now. By all indications, they're going to get Harmon for the first time this year. That's going to help the defense. To what extent, we don't know. But this highly touted, greatest defense of all time, $41 million to T.J. Watt, give Cam whatever something to save face right before the start of the season. They've looked atrocious. And they're facing a young Patriots team with a second-year quarterback who has not hurt them so far. And you get a little concerned about what could possibly lie ahead once kickoff happens around 1 o'clock today.
Yeah, and I tell you what, you got to find a way to get T.J. Watt involved, and that's easier said than done. If you have to, move him around a bit, move him around the line to free him up, get him in the position to make plays, you got to do that. I think they need to move him around a little bit. I think same you could say about Benton as well. He's kind of underperformed. Cam Hayward could play better. I know he had that tip last week, and Herbig, getting that interception. That was a, big play, big pivotal, defensive splash play, if you will. But yeah, I mean, they gotta do something to get TJ involved. And that, like I said, if that entails moving them around, then by all means.
Yeah, Patrick Queen, and just to piggyback on what you were talking about, Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson, they need to be better against the run.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
They need to be better against the run.
Right.
I know that they're not, pass defensive, schemed to do as much of that, but they cannot allow this team. And I'm not saying the Patriots are, the Patriots from 10 years ago. They certainly are not. It's
right.
a completely different team. But if this team comes out and runs for more than 100 yards today, and if you look at their depth chart, right, like if you look at these players that they have, and you say to yourself, oh my God, the Steelers gave up another 100-yard rushing game today, and they gave it up to somebody who I've never heard of before, right? If that happens today, if for some reason this team, goes out and runs for over 100 yards against the Steelers today, if they allow Ramondre Stevenson or Antonio Gibson to pile up big yardage, maybe they don't give up 100 yards, but combined they give up 120 yards, right? Drake May's capable of running the football. He's second in rushing on this team, right? They'll figure it out. I expect a low-scoring game, to be quite honest with you today. My other concern, and I think rightfully so, we start with the Steelers' defense. That's the biggest problem right now, right? And we could talk about Broderick Jones later. I prefer not to. I think we know what the issues are there. He's just not good. Let's go to the fact that this defense that the Patriots have is, after 2 games, they lead the NFL in sacks. They lead the league in sacks after 2 games, and they're getting pressure from up front. Christian Barmore, their defensive tackle, Milton Williams on the outside, their linebackers. They're creating a lot of pressure, and so far through 2 games have registered, I think it's 8 sacks. And so that's a lot. And that's a lot for an offensive line that has struggled, as Will Westcott checks in via Facebook, waving his terrible towel. Will, nice to see you. Wilt, or is it Wit? It's Wit Westcott.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, he's saying hello to you as he waves his terrible towel. Thanks for checking in on social media. You can leave us messages anywhere, and we will get to them. They'll register right to our page here. There's a myriad of things that are concerning when it comes to today's game. And so now the other side of that is, we've talked about the problems that the Steelers defense has had. Now you look at that offensive line for the Steelers, and they, again, just a little over 50 yards rushing in week 1, a little over 80 yards rushing in week 2, and, issues protecting Aaron Rodgers at times. It really, for me, it does spell disaster. It could be a very disastrous afternoon, concerning to say the least. Not sure how you feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, he's on pace right now to be sacked 60-something times. That's not good for a 41-year-old quarterback. I know I mentioned this last week. I sound like a broken record, but listen, I mean, they need better offensive efficiency, is what it comes down to. They've struggled with consistency these first 2 games. First 2 games, they failed to gain more than 271 total yards, in those first 2 games. Other things, I mean, you need to improve your third down conversion, right? Average yards per play, you need to improve that. If you need to do all these things in order to sustain drives, and if you can't do that, you're not going to be able to score the points against this tough defense of the Patriots, period.
Yeah. So. Go back to week 1 before they played the Jets. I said Jaylen Warren, hey, look, they let Najee go. They wanted to go in a different direction. I was not particularly thrilled by that decision, but, I don't run the team. And a lot of people were down on Najee in his tenure here, which I was a little disappointed in, because he was consistent, if not anything. He was never a problem off the field, right? He had a good demeanor. He was professional. He provided them with 4 1,000-yard seasons. I know that doesn't mean much anymore, as they went from 14 games to 16 games, now 17 games. He never had a run, I think, bigger than 36 yards. That was a big one that people always pointed to. He could never break a big run. I don't know why. Maybe because the offensive line was inconsistent for the 4 years that he was here.
Correct.
Maybe, right? But he should have had at least one big run, and it didn't happen. Maybe partly his fault, but it's an 11-man offense, and he needs help from 5-6 guys to springboard into big rushing attempts. I said Jaylen Warren concerns me. He was explosive when he touched the ball, average of 8 times a game in those first couple seasons. Now they're asking him to maybe touch the ball 20 times a game. And currently, you can look at his numbers. He's averaging less than 4 yards a carry right now.
Right.
And I know he's, on the opposite side, he's averaging 18 yards a catch, but he's only caught 6 passes in 2 games, which is a lot for a running back. I mean, that's pretty damn good. But the simple fact of the matter is that, the explosiveness is not there outside of, I think, maybe one play. He has been, and the offense in general has just not been great, but they've got problems all over the board, and it's hard to even think how they're going to address them.
And Whit Westcott, he brings up a good point here, commenting. He says, we all thought Najee would have been the Derrick Henry 2.0 coming out of Alabama, but I truly think his underwhelming tenure wasn't completely his fault. I totally agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've said this all along. He's an up-the-middle type runner. He's not a sideline-to-sideline guy, and it seemed at times like they were trying to use him as a sideline-to-sideline runner. No, he should have been an up-the-middle runner, and they didn't utilize him properly. And how many times, by the way, you talked about the line. How many times in run blocking did you see guys just swarm to him? I mean, it seemed like I know a lot of times.
Well, they knew.
Right.
Yeah, they knew what was coming.
Yeah, I mean, it just seemed like the entire defense was, hell, I think that they were bringing ushers down from the stands at some point to get in on the action to tackle on him. I mean, he was getting swarmed far too often,
He was, and Will, with very good, astute analysis there for sure. It wasn't completely his fault. I've said that. I thought they should have given him at least one more year of an extension. I don't think the offense is better without him. My 2 cents, right? And we'll see. We'll see what happens as the season progresses along. And I mentioned this in one of my shorts this past week. I think it might have even been yesterday. If you look at New England and what they've done, they were terrible, terrible, terrible football team. They were able to draft high and get Drake May. And maybe he turns out to be something, maybe he does not. It's very much – you don't know in the NFL what anybody's going to perform like. I mean, there's a handful of people when they are drafted, you think to yourself, that guy's can't miss, and they tend to be that way, right? But, especially at the quarterback position, right? The most highly scrutinized, the highest paid, the one that everybody's paying attention to, the catalyst, the straw, all of those things. New England has a second-year quarterback who they can now take progressively over the next few seasons and say, we got it right. He's getting there. We're getting there, right? And we're going to continue to stick with him. What have the Steelers done? Well, they reached with Kenny Pickett. They mismanaged Pickett. A horrible offensive coordinator to start his career, right? They decided to go with Mitch Trubisky in his rookie season. Then they pulled Mitch at halftime. I think it was against the Jets, actually, and brought Pickett in. Hey, look, it's the NFL. You're a professional. You're getting thrown in, I guess, right? And then, through the second season with the injury, and then, they got rid of, they got rid of the OC and just chaos, how they handled him, how he handled himself. The famous I'm shooting and I'm starting or I'm not playing against Seattle, right, late in the season. I think it was week 17. It was the second to the last game that they needed to win all 3 to get into the playoffs, which they did. Rudolph was able to guide them to the postseason. But Pickett, obviously, at that point felt frustrated. And then they pull the old okey doke with Russell Wilson, right, saying, hey, we're going to bring Russ in and we're making him the starter. There's going to be no competition, and then demanding a trade. And now he's on his 3rd team. No, he's on his 4th team.
4th team, yep.
He's on his 4th team. He's
right.
in Las Vegas, right?
Correct.
Yeah, trade to Philadelphia, off to Cleveland for a cup of coffee, and then they send him packing as well.
Yep.
And look, he had an amazing senior year at Pitt. Right? Won the Johnny Unitas Award, right? I think it's the Johnny Unitas Award. Won the top quarterback in college football and, obviously player of the year in the ACC, won the ACC championship game. Had an incredible year. No question about it. And because that draft class was weak, and the Steelers needed a quarterback because their Hall of Fame quarterback was retiring, they reached. And they mismanaged the whole thing, as far as I'm concerned, a majority of it. And I'm putting blame on Pickett as well. He didn't help matters, especially towards the end. But truth of the matter is that they've now gone a second straight year where they dive into the free agent market, and they bring in an aging veteran who is not going to be here for more than probably this season. I don't think Aaron Rodgers, especially if this team doesn't make the playoffs, I can't see Rodgers, and if he suffers 50, 60 sacks, why would he want to come back?
No.
Why he wouldn't want to come back to this?
No.
Wouldn't want to come back to this at all. Yeah. So, and let's just say they're 8-9, or let's say they go 9-8, but they don't make the playoffs. They're right back in the same pond of being in that 17 to 21 pick range. And, early indications are that, the draft class will, the quarterback wise, I don't think it'll be strong. I don't know if it'll be as strong as it maybe this year's class. I don't think so. I don't know. I know there's a lot of talk about Drew Aller up at Penn State. Maybe the Steelers try to move up. And you don't know until the season's over. You don't know until there's positioning by teams, and you can say they need a quarterback, they need a quarterback, they need a quarterback. They might take this guy, they might take this guy. We like this guy. How do we move up? As Witt checks in again via Facebook, it's unfortunate that Dwayne Haskins lost his life in an accident. I felt like he would have been a great answer at quarterback. Yeah, that was a tragedy, no question. Sure. An absolute tragedy for sure in that automobile accident. Possibly, it's all the positions are demanding, but of course, quarterback brings the highest scrutiny. It brings the highest scrutiny, and for right now, the Steelers are in a very murky situation as they head into this Week 3 matchup against the Patriots. This is Steel City Sunday. You are watching us live on Facebook. You're watching us live on YouTube and X. Portions of today's show are brought to us by Arch Masonry and Restoration. They are hiring here in Pittsburgh. Folks, I've been in the construction business for over a decade now. I've worked with Arch Masonry for over 10 years. I can tell you right now, great company, and they care about their people. They are seeking professional craftsmen who have experience laying brick, laying block, that can finish concrete, or have experience in laboring. If you don't have any experience and you're looking to jumpstart your career, that's okay, because Arch has programs where you can learn on the job. They have advancement programs and classes that can get your building trades career moving in the right direction. To learn more about Arch Masonry and Restoration, 412-564-5733, or visit their website, archmasonryinc.com. We are excited to be at the North Park Lounge Richland and the Hilltop Event Center. Come on down right here on Route 8. They've got a breakfast buffet set up till 1 o'clock. You can get in here and have some great food. It's a wonderful atmosphere for Steeler games. At some point, we're going to add another camera so we can show you. It's all decked out in black and gold and Steeler stuff. It's such a fun atmosphere. Again, North Park Lounge, Richland, and the Hilltop Event Center are host every week for Steel City Sunday, and we're excited to be able to bring that to you today. Let's talk a little bit about Mike Tomlin as we get warmed up for Mike Ostie and the mic drop here in just a few minutes. Caught a little bit of his Tuesday presser while I was driving en route from Mississippi to Louisiana, and I got to tell you, the Caleb Johnson demotion on special teams is no surprise. No surprise. There is some speculation that Johnson may be not seen for a while. I think he's only got 2 carries to begin the year. He's got 2 carries for -1 yard. So far. And again, he's behind Jalen Warren. He's behind Kenneth Gainwell, who has come in here and has performed decently, but nobody's been really impressive on the offensive side of the ball. Nobody's been impressive except for Chris Boswell. That he's the only one that's been of any consistency. Yeah, Jalen Ramsey hasn't hurt them too much, but overall, there's very few bright spots to talk about. But there's been some speculation that now he's already in the doghouse, and we may not see him for a while. Tomlin did say he could work himself back into some playing time and onto special teams, but Caleb Johnson quickly has found himself on the wrong side of Coach T.
Well, and I get it. I mean, but I don't know. I kind of have a little bit of mixed feelings on that whole thing. So now, correct me if I'm wrong. If you have a young wide receiver with talent that drops a football, what do you normally do?
Try to get him back in there and get him the ball again, regain some confidence, I would think.
Correct. So, taking him out, I mean, I know it was a big-time blunder. Yeah. It cost them the game. But I just kind of like, what's that say, in your confidence in the guy? Now you're saying, he has to earn his way back into that role. Granted, I know it was, he maybe had a flashback that he thought he was in college again, but I don't know. I wouldn't have pulled the plug on him. I would have I'd have given him another shot, I think. That's just me. But
and that's fair. I mean, I think that's a fair assessment. I don't think that you give somebody opportunity, let them earn opportunity to get back into things. And I think they'll probably do that with him. But it's they just and then Danny Smith obviously took some flack, special teams coach, and rightfully so. Should have taken some flack for what had happened yesterday. It's just inexcusable, just totally inexcusable what he failed to do in recognizing, that ball's live. Like that should have not happened at all, that play.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're Danny Smith, aren't you triple checking, quadruple checking that this young man knows exactly what to do when he's back there? I mean, I just, and I know he did get flack but I think, he shares some of that blame. I mean, geez, I mean, maybe he did, and he had too much bubble gum in his mouth, and Caleb Johnson couldn't understand him. I don't know, but I would have made it a point to, like I said, triple check that, hey, this is a live ball, correct? You know what you need to do back there, correct? And I would have, I don't know. Maybe they did. He just had a blunder, a brain fart, or whatever you want to call it. But I mean, like I said, it was a costly mistake. But I don't know. Just in order to, like I said, you don't want to kill the kid's confidence.
Right. No, you don't. And I think that's look. It's all part of the maturation process in this league, right? Clearly he's going to learn from it. You at least like to think he would. We'll see. I don't know if we'll see him today. It's hard to speculate on all of that. I think it's all situational. You end up seeing an injury or two, and they're going to call on the kid to get back in there and play. And so he's got to be ready. He absolutely has to be ready. I believe he will be ready. We'll find out in due time. All right, we're at the North Park Lounge, Richland, and the Hilltop Event Center. This is Steel City Sunday here on YouTube, Facebook, X. We'll be broadcasting hopefully on Instagram soon. Without any further ado, I want to bring in Mike Ostie for his weekly segment, managing editor of West Virginia Sports Now, part of the Pittsburgh Sports Now family of websites. Good morning, Mike. How was that West Virginia trampling yesterday in Lawrence?
Yeah, well, not great for Mountaineer Nation. Trampling is right. Embarrassment would also work, and definitely a difference of a week. Shows you how things can change in 1 week.
Yeah, and that's what's great about college football is that a team like that, who they were down 10 against Pitt, rival. Pitt
Right.
makes a mistake. They grab momentum. They end up winning the game, and then
Right.
what the heck happens the next week? They get stomped on. It's terrible. And I'm not picking on Mountaineer Nation, by the way. All right. My owners of my company are from Beckley. We have an office down there, right? Like, I enjoy Morgantown, and as a state, West Virginia, actually fairly underrated. If you ever have been down that way, especially in the southern part, West Virginia is a beautiful state.
It's definitely beautiful.
Yeah.
It's definitely beautiful. I would imagine that right now people in West Virginia are not feeling as beautiful.
All right, enough about the Mountaineers and the perils that they have been suffering through. Mike, thanks for coming on board this morning.
Of course, man.
We've been talking a little bit about, the struggles of the defense. I think that's where we kind of started today. You look at both sides of the ball. It's been ugly for sure, but heading into this game, I mean, I'm concerned. New England doesn't scare me. Look, New England doesn't scare me offensively, but the Jets didn't scare us offensively in week one, and they tore it up.
Right.
Yeah, they put up over 400 yards of offense, or pretty close to it. And again, Drake May, second-year quarterback. Nobody that's distinguishable in terms of running the football for them. But by 4 o'clock, if they've got 100+ yards rushing and 250 through the air, and it's another L being hung on this team. I don't want to hit the panic button, but it's time to hit the panic button, don't you think?
Well, the way Steeler Nation works, as you know, fans are already hitting the panic button. And I like to think I know what I'm talking about in terms of analyzing football and being around media and covering the sport in general for over a decade. But the Steelers are making that come into question for all of us in media, because going into week one, the conversation kind of was, okay, the Jets aren't really ready. Justin Fields isn't going to do that. And the Steelers should be able to cruise to a comfortable win. Not the situation at all. Justin Fields had his best game of his career, arguably, and it was a game the Steelers fans had to wipe sweat off their brow all day long. And then the Seattle game, that was a team with a new identity, a new quarterback trying to figure something out. No one nationally, Seattle media, whoever, nobody was predicting the Seahawks to be a juggernaut this year. And yet they end up hanging a W on the Steelers, and a comfortable one for them. So you go now into week 3 against, I don't know if it's still really a rivalry because Belichick, Brady, it's all gone. It's a whole different cast of characters, and the Patriots haven't been a contender for a while. But it would still sting Mike Tomlin to lose to the Patriots. Those guys aren't there, but that would still sting him from what that era was prior. And the Patriots are rebuilding too. They are not ready yet. Maybe they'll end up as the second best team in their division because the Bills are going to win it by 5 or 6 games easy. But they're still far from fully ready to get back to where they were. But dare I say, John, a must-win game for the Steelers here early in the season. This is a conference game. It is not a divisional game, but it is a conference game. The Seattle game was not a conference game. It's going to start mattering if you're figuring they're maybe not going to win the division and they're going to be vying for a wild card. You can't just drop conference games. And on paper, talent-wise, this is the issue. On paper, talent-wise, the Steelers should be better than the Patriots. The Steelers have more talent than the Jets did. You could even argue Seattle. And Aaron Rodgers hasn't been a problem. He's not been his near MVP self. Not that anyone thought he would be at this age, but he's not been slinging picks. He's not been a problem. The defense, as you mentioned, has been the issue. And the defense, outside of Rodgers and some pieces, DK Metcalf, the defense is where they did the most work in the offseason.
Right.
They brought in a lot of talent. They fixed this defense. They did some uncharacteristic, non-Steeler way things to kind of quickly try to revamp the defense. You can't have the names on that defense that you have, do the work you did in the offseason, and then be worse. They're worse right now defensively than they were a year ago. And a year ago, the conversation was that the defense wasn't good enough to win playoff games. They now are worse defensively with a better offense, a better quarterback, and figuring they have pressure to win a playoff game. So if they go ahead and let the Patriots and Drake May run up the field on them and they lose this game, especially if it's on the defense again, that would be a legitimate reason to press a panic button here.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking with Mike Ostie and the Mike Drop. Mike, of course, managing editor of West Virginia Sports Now, part of the Pittsburgh Sports Now family of websites. He's also a national writer for Yardbarker. You can hear him on Sirius XM as well. 3-10, by the way, Tomlin lifetime against New England. Last victory was in 2011.
Wow.
Was 2011. So
I covered one where I remember that after the game, I definitely heard a lot of "F yeah," and I even heard a swear to God, and I think this was from Brady because we were waiting to get in to talk to Tomlin. This is after towards the end of that, I forget the year, but towards the end of that tenure, 16, 17, something like that, when they came back to win. Gronk had a great game and dominated towards the end by himself. I believe it was Brady, though, who said, "Winner, winner, chicken parm dinner." And I guess they were going to have some chicken parm. It was a very Brady comment, but winner, winner, chicken parm dinner on the Steelers.
Boy, I could go for some chicken parm now.
I know.
Yeah. So strange.
You're at a restaurant. Maybe they can hook you up.
I am. I got to pay, but they're right. They're right to not comp me for free because I'll just take advantage of everything.
Yeah, so would I.
Yeah. Well, that's what we do. Well, you're in the media. I'm pretending to be in the media, but hey, nonetheless, the free.
You were in the media before me.
So. At some point in time, I suppose. Yeah, I was for a little while. But so let's talk a little bit about Aaron Rodgers. You were right. Through 2 games, he has not done any. I think he had 2 picks last week. The interception the pass he threw to Calvin Austin was probably more Austin's fault than anything. He has not hurt them,
right?
And that's I guess what you need from a veteran like him, and arguably one of the top 5 quarterbacks of all time, 4-time MVP, Super Bowl winner, all that good stuff. Rodgers, 2 games in, what do you think is going through his mind right now?
Well, that's a wacky question to ask and a world to get into there. I don't know if anyone will ever be able to fully get into what's going on in Aaron Rodgers' mind.
Fair point on that. That's a fair point. But
I don't
2 games in, how do you think he feels? I mean, it's not. Let me ask you this: do you think in his mind it's panic mode if they lose today?
Yeah. So if they lose today, I would imagine he's a veteran. He's trying not to rock the boat and throw the subtle jabs that he threw last year. So I would imagine that if they lose like last week, he's going to make the comments that it's a long year, that I've been through this before. He's actually a football savant. He knows the history of the game. He may even cite examples on McAfee and say that this team was 1-2 and did this. I did this early in my career. I can do this. So he's going to try to have people not press the panic button. However, I would imagine in his heart of hearts right now, Aaron Rodgers is incredibly frustrated. And if they lose again, he will be even more incredibly frustrated. And yes, he's not played to when he was a 4-time MVP, but I would imagine, John, for people that are being reasonable, now at 40 years old, going to be 41 at the end of the year, I mean, he's playing as well as you really can ask for. The 2 picks are not what you want, of course, but one of them really wasn't on him. Even if you say they're both on him, he is an aging quarterback. Yes, maybe he's one of the top 5, top 10 quarterbacks of all time, depending on where you rank him. That's a whole debate for another day. But he's certainly a future Hall of Famer. But there are a few quarterbacks, including the legends, that once they hit 40 have really had great years. You're talking Tom Brady. You're arguing the end of Brett Favre, where he had his best statistical year. I think he actually was 39 at the time when he had his great stat year with the Vikings. And then obviously Peyton won a ring, but Peyton won a ring thanks to his defense. Going back to the defense, Peyton Manning won that second championship.
That's right.
His spread, I have it memorized. He threw 9 touchdowns and 17 picks. It's one of the worst years of his career. And by rights, he probably should have got benched. The defense and running game was so good. It ends up not hurting his legacy at all because they won a championship and they carried him and drove him there. It does feel like where Rodgers' frustration may come in, that he may now realize, and maybe he didn't think this before when he got there, this defense, this lack of running game, etc., is not going to be able to do what the Broncos did for Peyton. They cannot carry him through. He's going to need to do more than Peyton Manning did that year with Denver. Can he is another story, but I'd imagine there's frustration there because you can't ask him to be MVP Aaron Rodgers in order to win. That should not be the request. And he's already given you a higher ceiling at quarterback so far this year than what this team has had in recent years.
That's a fair point, and yeah, certainly, through 2 games, without a doubt, he has performed better than they've had for quite a while.
Or he's 41 now. He's going to be 42 at
Yeah,
the end of the year.
42 on I think it's December 2nd. Yeah, it was in December. Where's TJ Watt? What does he have to do more importantly?
On a
What
milk
does
carton.
TJ? Yeah, right. What does he
Yeah.
got to do to free himself up to create some havoc for this defense?
Yeah. So,
Or Terrell Austin and Tomlin,
Yeah.
what do they have to do to scheme for him
yes,
to
so
get
both
him involved?
see both are fair questions here. And in media, as you know, we like to take a side and then just live on that side and hammer that side home and then maybe have a hot take there, and that's where you can run amok. It's fair for TJ Watt to have both sides be kind of right here. Number one, when you get paid the money that TJ Watt is getting paid, you're getting paid to be able to overcome adversity. You are one of the better defenders in the league. You might be the best defensive player in the league. You have a resume that is already guaranteedly going to take you to the Hall of Fame, even if you never win a playoff game. And of course, they have not won one with him on the roster. However, when you get that money and you're in that situation, it's reasonable for the franchise to expect, okay, if the other team's scheming to eliminate you from a game, which they're of course going to do, that's a compliment. All the best players in sports history, the opponent schemes to try to take them out of it. You need to find a way to still have an impact. So far this year, at least statistically speaking, he's not been able to find a way to have an impact. So that is unacceptable when you're getting that kind of money. It's reasonable for the fans, even the franchise behind closed doors, to say they got to get more. But it's also fair to say that he is facing a lot at him. He is facing a double team at him all the time. Teams are scheming to eliminate him. It is not easy for him to do this. There are other players in football who are getting sacks that are not dealing with what he's dealing with. This might be a game that maybe he can try to get around it, but Vrabel's going to be somebody that's going to be able to scheme against him. That's a great player in his own right, who's now a coach, of course. So maybe this is also going to be a problem game. But something's going to have to give here. And I would imagine, John, because we both know that TJ Watt is clearly going nowhere, that if this team does not make the playoffs this year with Rodgers, if they have another one and done year, if the defense is barely in the top 25 after being top 15, and that vocally by them, having them say that wasn't good enough, if they're worse this year defensively, then Austin will probably be the scapegoat and he'll probably go. And then they'll just power through again. It'll be similar to what happened years ago when they fired Todd Haley, when the offense still was scoring and he was a scapegoat then. So TJ Watt's not going anywhere, but I don't know. I mean, it's really a question for a coach to try to figure out what Austin needs. That's where he makes his money. He needs to figure it out. And TJ Watt makes his money figuring it out, even though everything's going against him. You can't just sit there in week 7 and say, I have 1 sack and, we have 1 win and our defense is awful, but they're scheming against me. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. Of course,
it's their fault I'm not doing anything defensively.
Right. Like, of course they're scheming against you. You got to figure something out.
Right. Yeah, Mike Ostie joining us for his weekly segment, The Mic Drop. Mike, managing editor of West Virginia Sports Now, part of the Pittsburgh Sports Now family of websites, national writer for Yardbarker and heard on Sirius XM. Derek Harmon is supposed to play today. Yeah. By all accounts, he has recovered from I think it was an ankle injury he suffered in the last preseason game. And can his presence, it's got to help, right? I mean, we don't know what he's going to do or what he's going to be capable of. Maybe 15 snaps according to some of the people that cover the team on a daily basis, but 15 snaps from that young man probably going to help this team I would think in some capacity.
Yeah, and I at least you're going to see a lot more of what you got in him, which you're not in a rebuilding year. You don't want to just evaluate, but that'll at least be a positive right now. But yes, more bodies is certainly going to help. I love the draft pick at the time. I love the draft pick at the time. So we're now going to really see maybe what he's made of. That certainly could be a major benefit to the team. 22 years old, first round pick. Like, he should be hungry. He's athletic. He's been in big games before, even though not in the NFL. I think it's, if not now, when? It's time to unlock your pieces, and him being able to get healthy and get out there certainly should be a major help. However, as you know, they're also dealing with injuries. So how much does a rookie who you're entering in the lineup cancel out injuries to veterans who also are supposed to be doing kind of what he's going to now be asked to do and allow a comfort for TJ Watt. I mean, you want Highsmith out there. You want the veterans out
Right.
there. But yes, having Derek Harmon out there should be a boost, and maybe he'll have an impact. We've seen players at that position have the ability to make an impact right away. Certainly elite players at that position. And again, I love the draft pick. So if not now, when? And I do think the advantage for the Steelers in this game is kind of what I expected in the Jets game, but maybe we were underrating Justin Fields, and maybe he got up for the game. They do have some weapons around him and Wilson and company. Is as much as I think Drake May could be part of their future there, and maybe he's been better than some people think, there aren't enough weapons on the Patriots offense. The Steeler fans who think they don't have enough weapons outside of DK Metcalf and maybe Calvin Austin, true, but the Patriots have fewer. So I don't think there's enough weapons for Drake May and New England to be able to hang 30 points on any defense, let alone the Steelers with that kind of talent. And then if you go to Rodgers in the offense, as long as he stays upright and the offensive line can hold, he should be able to do enough to get the victory. And in the NFL, you just got to get the freaking win. But nothing is a guarantee. And I thought they would beat Seattle, and they did not.
Yeah, well, yeah. Look, they led at half, and they were tied after 3. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they were in that game until
Sure.
they weren't. Unfortunately, yeah. And you mentioned Highsmith out, Deshaun Elliott's also out.
Yeah.
Joey Porter Jr. on that defensive side certainly is concerning. Look, New England played a very bad team last week, arguably the worst one in the NFL. The Dolphins are now 0-3. They hung 33 on them. This defense has not inspired anybody, I don't think, through 2 games. And you're right, they don't possess anybody who you look at that offense, and again, running the football, nobody that you should be concerned about, and again, throwing the football, outside of Stephon Diggs, who's I think in his 11th or 12th season in the league. You know what I mean? Their top 2 wide receivers don't really scare you. Keyshawn Butte, I believe is how he's pronounced his last name. Nobody scares you on that team, but because of how poorly this defense has played, the concern is that they don't have to be spectacular because this team is just not very good defensively with the injuries on top of that. It does scare you a little bit because if you get to 24, if the Patriots get to 24, the game might be in the bag.
Well, I mean,
their defense is pretty good. They lead the league in sacks after 2 games. The defense is pretty solid.
Well, again, that's the Vrabel effect. I did think he was going to be a coach there that could help them get going into being respectable, at least. In the end of Belichick certainly was not, and even last year Gerard Mayo was not, which is why he was one and done. I do think Vrabel can get them back to being respectable. They had a solid draft. They brought in some pieces. They are trying to build this up defensively, which is kind of actually what they did in the beginning of the 2000s before Brady got elite. They were winning games defensively and building it up defensively, for anybody who wants to look back. So they're trying to do that again, and that eventually will work. But if you look at their season so far, it's hard to really evaluate them, John. They played the Raiders. They played the Dolphins. The Raiders might be okay. Granted, they've been hot and cold this year. Geno had a lot of mistakes last week, bringing up a former Mountaineer. He's a veteran. Pete Carroll's a veteran coach. They usually win. Who knows what their year is going to be? The Dolphins are maybe the worst team in football despite a competitive showing against Buffalo. So who knows what the Patriots are going to do. I would imagine there's more talent on the Steelers, certainly on offense, even if the Patriots defense plays better. I would think if the Patriots win this game, I guess much like Seattle, they're going to have to rely on getting turnovers. They're going to have to get field position. They're going to probably score off a short field, and then that'll be enough. Whereas the Steelers defense collapses and then Rodgers maybe throws a pick or 2, that probably will be the recipe to beat Pittsburgh. But the weapons are just not there. I don't think the Steelers defense has to worry about a 70-yard bomb that maybe they would in later games. So maybe their defensive scheme can be a little different. And I'd also imagine, we know this about Mike Tomlin, and he's been around the block a long time, and he has to change over the years, but there's something that he doesn't have to change, and he's never had to change and doesn't want to change. When he faces an inexperienced quarterback, he brings the fire. He brings the pass rush. I would imagine he's going to bring it in this game, and he's going to try to get TJ Watt some sacks. And if not him, somebody. They're just going to try to make Drake May remember the day they played the Steelers, win or lose, and get on him every play.
Yeah.
And if they do that, the only way that won't work is if Drake May has a quick release and catches him napping and throws deep passes and connects on him. I don't see them having those big play receivers and Drake May being that guy. But if they can bring that pass rush and own that pass rush and generate sacks, they maybe should have a comfortable day. Because I do think the Patriots are respectable, but are they a good team yet? No. If the Steelers lose this game to New England, though, then there's questions to certainly ask. Are the Steelers, they've obviously had a winning record for so many years and at least got in the playoffs despite not being good enough, and it's been a long time since they won a playoff game. They lose this game, I don't even know if the Steelers are even close to a playoff team. That's a legit question then.
That's a great point, and I would think they are not for sure. Yeah. Steelers just 3 sacks so far through 2 games. The Patriots actually have 9, leading league in that department. Now I will say, defensively, the Patriots give up the most yards per play. I know this is going to be a little hard to believe, but they give up 10.3 yards per play.
A bend but don't break break defense. Yeah,
right.
I mean, that's kind of what you want. The points are what matters. But again, they scored 13 on the Raiders, and we've seen other teams score on them. Yeah. What can their offense do besides the game against Miami?
Yeah, Steelers not much better at 9.3. Both are in the bottom last 4 of that. Before I let you go, prediction on today's game. What do you think?
I don't. Yeah, maybe. I keep jinxing this for Steelers Nation here. Prediction on today's game. I am going to say the Steelers will win this game. Have this be more. I don't think it's going to be some dominating performance, though. I don't know if they have that in them. I think you're going to leave this game, and fans are still going to say you beat an average team. They're still going to be concerned, etc. I'm going to go more of a 27-20 victory for the Steelers. Okay. And the funny thing is, just looking at the Patriots' schedule, I'll kind of leave you with this. If the Patriots win this game, John, dare I say they might be the surprise team of the year, because that schedule's easy coming up. They win this game. After the Steelers, they have Carolina. They're obviously then going to lose to Buffalo, but then New Orleans, Tennessee, Cleveland, Atlanta. If New England beats if New England beats the Steelers, they could legitimately have 2 losses into middle November only. Easy. If their defense keeps doing this, and then they're easily a playoff team, and that would be like 8-2 at that point. Like
just looking at it before they get to Tampa Bay in November, 5-4 or 6-3. That'd be pretty spectacular.
Oh yeah, then Vrabel's in line for Coach of the Year. That's being more reasonable, of course. But yeah, I would say 6-3 would be great for them. But all those games are winnable outside of Buffalo. They're not going to win them all, but they could win all of those outside of Buffalo after this Steelers game. So then you're dealing with a pretty solid record for New England if you're vying for a wild card, and then you have the head-to-head loss. This is dare I say, a must-win game here early in the season for Pittsburgh.
Mike Ostie and the Mic Drop, managing editor of West Virginia Sports Now, national writer for Yardburger, heard on Sirius XM. Mike, you're the man. Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good day, and maybe get some chicken parm if the Steelers win.
Absolutely. I will do it in your honor. I will do that. I appreciate
it. I'll try as well. We'll share our chicken parm if they win.
That's it. We can do a virtual sharing of chicken parm. Mike Ostie, thank you very much. All right, my man, joining us every week here on our pregame show. This is Steel City Sunday here on YouTube, X, and Facebook. Welcome to our broadcast. Please like and share, subscribe, let your friends know. We're here every Steelers game at the North Park Lounge, Richland, and the Hilltop Event Center. They've got a great breakfast buffet. Every Steelers game, you can come on up here, get great food. They've got great drink specials during the game. Atmosphere is fantastic. Just a wonderful place. We're excited to be partnered with them. We're just thrilled that we can bring this to you. And again, the types of guests that we try to line up for you in our 11 o'clock hour. We've got our Behind Enemy Lines segment where we try to bring somebody on from the media that has covered the opposing team that the Steelers are facing. We've got Matt Peralt, who worked at WEEI in Boston. He's a native of New England, went to UMass Amherst, graduated from there, lives in Las Vegas now, is a handicapper of sorts. He does several popular podcasts out of Las Vegas, one called Bostonian versus the Book, another one called The Daily Juice. He's an adjunct professor at UNLV. He is going to be joining us in the 11 o'clock hour. We'll talk with him. And then at 11:40 or so, we'll do our Consigs Pick segment where we talk about gambling and the NFL. Professional sports bettor John Murgis joins us at that time. John used to run book for the Chicago Mob back in the 70s and 80s. Connected guy, not a made guy, but nonetheless, now living in Florida. I just want to get that out there. I spent some time on the phone with John yesterday. He's an interesting character, to say the least. We're excited to have him in the 11 o'clock hour. At noon, Paul Zeiss joins us for his weekly segment. Actually, he'll be with us for the majority of the hour. In between all of that, we'll get Zig Fracassi, our NFL insider from SiriusXM's NFL Radio, to talk about the NFL games in week number 3. Want to say hi to a good friend of mine, Andy Wido, who is battling some health issues. Andy, a.k.a. Dutch, former broadcaster on WMBS Radio in Uniontown, Pennsylvania, probably one of the sharpest guys. You talk about a sharp, and I know you're not a big gambler, Bill. We're going to work on that this year. I want you to become a complete and total degenerate. Just take whatever money you're getting and just spend it on, like, second half overs in like Bundesliga soccer like I do. I'm kidding. I don't actually do that. But one of the sharpest guys I know, he used to do a lot of picks on the old Trib Live message boards years and years ago. Andy Dutch Wido says, best bet today, Rams plus 3.5 at Philadelphia. Sharp guy. Take your chocolate chip cookies and do with them as you will. But I hope you get healthy, buddy. I know we were supposed to connect a few weeks ago, but your health is more important. I hope they can figure things out for you. Okay, we are about to wrap up hour number 1. Just how quickly things move, right? When you have entertaining guests and the content is good, things fly by. And just like that, our first hour is coming to an end here at the North Park Lounge Richland and the Hilltop Events Center. Hey, if you've got your holidays in front of you, if you're running a business, you might want to think about coming to the Hilltop Events Center and talking to the people here at NPL Richland about hosting an event. This is a 16,000 square foot facility. They've got ability to host events in the back here. And it's just a fun atmosphere. They've got a virtual center here behind the bar. You can do golf. You can play soccer, baseball. That's available for people to hang out in. Just a really, really nice entertainment facility. Years ago, when I did emceeing and auctioneering for Myasthenia Gravis Association, they held a sports auction every year, sports memorabilia auction. I first came in contact with them in 1998, started hosting the emceeing of the event and doing the auctioneering. I did it for, I was like 15, 16, 17 years I was involved with them. They actually had the event out here one year. It's a great facility. So if you've got a Christmas party in mind, you're not sure where you want your event, you definitely want to contact the people here at North Park Lounge Richland. They can definitely take care of those needs for you. All right, we've talked a little bit about what's coming up in the second hour. We will get to our second hour here in just a few moments. Hopefully you're enjoying what you're seeing here from the broadcast. And again, if you have comments, you're welcome to leave them on Facebook and some other locations down below. We'll get your comments and we'll talk about them, whether it's on X, Facebook, or YouTube. We're getting all of those, and we're certainly happy to address any thoughts or concerns that you may actually have. Bill, as we head into the second hour, any thoughts? We've talked obviously about the main concerns, the defense. We've talked a little bit about, obviously Aaron Rodgers. How do you feel about Jaylen Warren after 2 games so far?
Yeah, I want to see more out of him. I don't know. I don't know. I want to see more out of him, more production. Listen, when I look at the Patriots, they have a lot of weaknesses, and especially on defense. When you look at it, they've been very vulnerable in coverage, especially up the middle, John. Yeah. Their linebackers, former Steeler Robert Spillane, and Christian Ellis. They've struggled in coverage. They actually lead the NFL in missed tackles. So I mean, I think you need to exploit similar to how the Seahawks did to the Steelers last week. Throwing up the middle. I think they need to exploit that this week and get everybody involved. I'd like to see more Freiermuth up the middle. I know they had a couple quick slants to him last game, and it seemed to work. So, but yeah, I think another thing too. When you look at Drake May, he's got a strong start to the season. I mean, he's averaging 258 yards passing per game, 71% completion rate. But I think similar to any young quarterback, I think if you pressure him, you're gonna enable him to have some turnovers. And I know he's been also prone to fumbles. He's had a few fumbles in his young career. So I think you just got to figure out ways to get in his face. And like I said, if you can pressure him and give him less.
And that's part of the problem. They've only got 3 sacks. They've put very little pressure on the first 2 quarterbacks that they faced.
Right.
That's a problem. And no sacks from Watt. He hasn't had a sack, I think, now in 6 games. Go back to last year. I think it's 6 games.
Yeah.
He's I don't want to say he's disappeared. I mean, it's easy to say, hey, where's TJ Watt? Well, there's 11 guys on the other side of the ball that are poised to stop him and create problems for him getting any pressure anywhere, being disruptive in the backfield, stripping a ball, right? Forcing a turnover, picking off a pass. We haven't seen that since, maybe early December of last year.
Yeah.
And that's credit to the opposing teams that are scheming against him.
Right. And I mean, you asked about Jaylen Warren. I mean, I said, production. I mean, he's got 25 carries. He's got 85 yards. He's averaging 3.4 a carry. No touchdowns. I mean, it's just, it is what it is. I mean, he's just not. You don't have. He's not getting the production. He's not getting the production. Yep. So we'll see. I mean, they got to get the running game. You got to be able to Steelers, I think, are one of these teams where you have to run to set up the pass. You can't pass to set up the run. So.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you, but that, again, therein lies the problem. Their offense and defensive lines have just been atrocious so far. This is hour number 2 of Steel City Sunday, live from the North Park Lounge, Richland, and the Hilltop Event Center. We are so pleased you could join us. We're here every Steelers game, 3 hours prior to kickoff, and then immediately following every Steelers game for about 2 hours of post game. Jerry DePaula, longtime writer here in Pittsburgh, has covered the Steelers, has covered Pitt, has covered the Pirates, the Penguins. He's covered all kinds of sports in his 4 decades in media work. He's going to join our post-game show starting this week. So we'll have Jerry on about a half an hour after post-game ends. We take the first 30 minutes to kind of dissect, recap what's going on in the NFL. Jerry's going to join us about 30 minutes afterwards. We'll keep him for about an hour today and rehash what happened. We'll see. I don't want to give out any predictions, but I think I've made it fairly clear all week long how I feel about things. It's a very even game. Very even game. I'm still surprised that the Steelers are still sitting at 1.5 right now. Nothing has moved in this contest in terms of Vegas is concerned. The Cleveland Browns are now down to 7.5. Green Bay opened up 8.5-point favorites this week. They are now 7.5-point favorites. So there's some steam coming in from West Coast. In terms of that line moving for sure. I always try to check the lines. There's a couple key components, and we'll talk about this with John Murgis. There's 2 things I always try to look at. It's the volume of tickets and the handle, right? That type of stuff is critical when you're looking at games because you want to be on the side of the book, generally speaking. There's going to be weeks where the public wins, but as a general rule of thumb, I'm looking at the handle on those sorts of things. Atlanta opened up. Carolina actually opened up as a 1.5-point favorite. That line has swung 5 points. It's actually swung 6 points in the opposite direction. The Falcons are 4.5 right now. Carolina might be in a good position today. We'll talk more about picks, my personal picks later when we get Paul Zeiss in here. We'll do our picks segment. But those are just some things that I'm just looking at the lines. Philadelphia is still holding strong at 3.5. That is a 1:00 kickoff today. Jacksonville -1.5 at home against Houston. That line hasn't moved. Minnesota has been steady all week long, even off the news of Joe Burrow. Where he suffered that turf toe injury. Minnesota opened 1.5. The injury got announced. It went straight to 3. It's been there all week. Nothing has moved on the Tampa Bay line. They're 6.5 at home against the Jets today. I know that's a game John Murgis was interested in. He mentioned that yesterday. Indianapolis and Tennessee. Is this the week that Cam Ward finally breaks through against a very surprising 2-0 Indianapolis Colts team? They should not have won that game last week. They caught a break at the end of that game, and they kicked a long field goal. It was no good. There was a weird penalty that got called, gave them 15 yards. They ended up kicking a game winner and beating Denver, who has a very big game at SoFi today in the 4:00 window. Denver is at the Chargers. They're 2-0 and looking strong. Las Vegas is a 1:00 game today. They come east again, and they have to play Washington. The Commanders, all right, the Redskins are 1-1 and a 3-point favorite. A couple other late games to mention to you. New Orleans at Seattle. Seahawks 7.5-point favorites. The Saints have looked dead through 2 games this year. Dallas at Chicago for a 4:25 kickoff. The Bears are a 1-point dog at home. That's John's hometown. We'll talk about that game for sure. Arizona at San Francisco. That game 2-0. Compare 2-0 teams in the late window at San Francisco. The host 49ers are -1.5. The late game tonight, a pair of 0-2 teams, Kansas City at the New York Giants. We're about 5-6 minutes away from Matt Perrault joining us. Matt Perrault lives in Las Vegas, Nevada, native of New England, graduate of UMass Amherst, worked at WEEI in Boston, covering all kinds of sports in the Beantown, if you will. Has a couple of gambling podcasts, Bostonian versus the Book, and The Daily Juice. He's an adjunct professor at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. He's going to come on our Behind Enemy Lines segment and talk about the Patriots with us. And then, of course, I mentioned professional gambler John Murgis at 11:40. And then in the 12:00 hour, Paul Zeiss of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And then Zig Fracassi of Sirius XM's NFL Radio. This is Steel City Sunday. We are brought to you in part by Arch Masonry and Restoration. I talk about this company because a couple of reasons. One, I've known about them for quite a long time. I've worked with them for more than a decade. They are one of our sponsors here on the show. Arch Masonry and Restoration. At this time of year, companies start slowing down in terms of their hiring. Arch Masonry and Restoration is not. They're hiring. They're looking for professional craftsmen who have experience in brick and block laying, concrete finish work, and labor help. And by the way, if you don't have experience, that's not a problem. You can learn on the job because they have advanced placement programs and classes that can jumpstart your career in the building trades. If you want to learn more about Arch Masonry and how competitive they are, not just in terms of wages, but also their benefits packages, their bonus programs, and what they can do to help you with a career in the building trades, call them 412-564-5733 or visit their website, archmasonryinc.com, to learn more. Arch Masonry and Restoration, a proud sponsor here of Steel City Sunday. I guess we have Matt Perrault joining us live from Las Vegas. There he is. Good morning, Matt.
Hi. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. Matt Perrault, of course, the host of Bostonian versus the Book and the Daily Juice. 4-0 yesterday in college football, I see.
Yeah, good day yesterday. I mean, normally when I have a good day on Saturday, means Sunday's going to be a disaster. So I'll take it.
It's give it back Sunday, is it not?
Yeah, it always is in the NFL. I mean, college, whenever you get red hot in college, and today is a treacherous day with a lot of really interesting lines, backup quarterbacks playing all over the league. So today is a careful day, but of course I love the card and I have like 15 plays going today. So I talk out of both sides of my mouth when it comes to this. I say they hate the card and then I'm betting like crazy. So
I say you're spraying dimes all over the place early, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some good spots. I mean, I think there's some good numbers that are available that you can jump on if the trends hold. Now, trends are your friends until they're not, obviously, to steal our line of our good friend Dave Sharapan. But that's going to be today's going to be an interesting game for or week for sure because of the backups.
It's nickels early and dimes when you're trying to chase it. So I want to clarify that as well. So you've covered sports in Boston professionally. You've been in Las Vegas, I think, for a decade now. So you have a pretty good handle on how Vegas views things. I want to start with the number for today. Steelers -1.5. It's pretty much, I think, held since it opened. I don't think it has moved at all at one bit. Are you a little surprised? Given how poorly, and again, I know New England's rebuilding, and that's all well and good. Traditionally, a home team gets 3, and then the adjustment is made from there. Vegas is saying the Steelers are 4.5 points better, or at least in terms of the odds. Are you a little surprised at that number, or is Vegas right?
No, I've been surprised all week. I mean, I'm stunned that the number is 1.5. And look, this is a teaser special for the Patriots to take them up and cross 7 if you like to do teasers, because I think this is going to be a tight football game. Both these defenses are really bad at the moment. So I mean, look at the metrics. Both the Patriots and the Steelers defenses aren't great. So probably the best play in the game is over 44.5, and to go and expect offense for both these two teams. Aaron Rodgers has not played well in New England. The Steelers are 1-8 in their last 9 games in New England. I mean, this is a team that's given up over 30 points. The Steelers have in back-to-back weeks to start this season, and Drake May looked competent last week on the road against the Dolphins and giving the Patriots a much needed win, because a lot of people in New England were holding their breath after the Raider loss as to, did we completely overestimate the talent level of this team? And are they not going to be able to do anything on offense? Because Drake May, frankly, looks scared and overwhelmed in the Josh McDaniels new offense. And so he looked much better in week 2. You expect a much better performance today. There's a lot of hype in New England right now with Bill Parcells and Julian Edelman both going into the Hall of Fame yesterday for the Patriots. So I've been very surprised. I thought this would have been a pick 'em. I thought this is where the books would just put it up and let the pros bet to tell them which side should be favored. But the Steelers being favored has been a little bit of an anomaly to me.
I don't disagree with you. Again, I'm on the same page as you. I thought Pick'em was where it should have been, and that's, I think, a good assessment. But they have these billion-dollar facilities out there that I got a chance to see back in August, and they tend to be somewhat sharp in those avenues. Drake May, second year, good. I thought it was a good draft pick for them. What do you like about him so far? Not just this year, but what you've seen through 19 games.
I think what it is that I like the most is that there's an athlete at the position for the first time, maybe ever, for the Patriots, who's a competent thrower as well as a guy who can move in the pocket and step up. Brady was incredible at his ability to just be slippery in the pocket, but he was never going to beat anybody in a foot race. Drake May can pick up first downs, and against a pass rush like the Steelers, it's going to be needed today. When the pocket does collapse, you got to get to the outside. You got to pick up that 5 yards and just move the sticks. And Aaron Rodgers, even at his age where he is now, he can still do it in his late 30s. And it's, I think, a requirement for the position now to be mobile, to be able to move and pick up first down. So I like that the Patriots now have a quarterback for the modern era of football. I do like that Drake May's arm is really good for the deep ball. The problem is the short and intermediary throws that he's got to work through, and that's such an important part of the Josh McDaniels offense. this is a team that from a fan base, they're used to seeing dinking and dunking and the wide receiver bubble screen and the tight end middle screen and those type of throws that May can get flustered and sometimes just flat out miss his receivers. And that's where a lot of his interceptions have been thrown, with him just missing wide receivers. So the interceptions are a concern for sure for Drake May, but it's year 2, it's year 1 in a brand new offense. So far, so good. But there's a lot to go, a lot of meat left on the bone yet before you're like, okay, he's a franchise quarterback.
We're talking with Matt Perrault, who hosts several gambling podcasts out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Bostonian versus the book, The Daily Juice. He's covered sports professionally in Boston and across the country. Adjunct professor at UNLV. By the way, how's the teaching gig? How do you like that?
I love it. It's such an amazing opportunity. I'm 48 years old, so I'm getting up there in age, and it's an amazing opportunity just to see the world through the eyes of an 18, 19-year-old and the optimism, and just to remind me about why I love media and why I've been a 30-year media lifer. That optimism, the idea that the world is an untouched oyster and they get to go and attack it and go out there every day and make themselves better. Every time they're on mic, they try to get better. So it's a great thing for me. It's a really important part of my life. I don't make a lot of money at it. I don't do it for the money.
Right.
I do it for the experience and the opportunity to be around young people. And frankly, for my own, media world, it's great to hear what's coming next, because there's all sorts of apps that those kids use that I've got no idea what they're talking about. I mean, my daughter's 11, so she helps me a little bit, but when that whole Be Real thing came out 5 years ago, my kids were all over it, and I was like, what is this? So it's great to find out on their end as to what's coming down the pike.
Yeah, I've got a 13 and 12-year-old. They're way light years ahead of me and all of that stuff. We just joined TikTok, and I'm not going to lie, I did not want to join TikTok, but apparently it's like the new YouTube, apparently. It's all video, and it's just what, I'm a dinosaur almost like you. I thought you were a little younger than that too, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. I'm
okay.
48. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm 48.
All
So,
right.
I was a kid who was born in the 70s and grew up in the 80s. I watched Patriot football when they were at old Sullivan Stadium, when they couldn't win more than 2 games in a football season, and sat in steel bleachers and suffered through all of
that.
The 86, Bears Super Bowl, and then finally getting back to another one in the 90s with Bill Parcells and losing that one, and thinking for my life, thinking Patriots would never win a single Super Bowl, and I've seen 6. So I always say this: I'm good, no matter what happens.
Right.
I'm good.
You've lived.
I saw 6.
Yeah, you saw 9, 8 or 9. I mean,
nine
6
Super
winners.
Bowls, yeah, 6
Yeah,
winners.
you saw. Yeah,
yeah. We don't count the losses. Come on, you guys don't count the losses. We don't count the losses. Count the wins.
Can you just take, as a fan, and now you've been a professional in media for 30 years, take me through that, especially that whole move through where Tom comes through, and believe me, I was working in television at the time here in Pittsburgh when they, that run between 01 and 04 when they came here a couple times and beat them at AFC Championship games. Talk about that whole that era of Patriots football where it was, the happable losers to becoming the dynasty that they are.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up, like I mentioned, where the Patriots were the worst franchise in the 80s. Record-wise in the NFL. I mean, every game was blacked out. You guys in Pittsburgh never heard of that, but we actually got blacked out all the time, where if you didn't sell out your stadium, the game wasn't on TV.
It wasn't on locally.
Can you believe that? If you
it's crazy.
Your stadium, you got blacked out. So oftentimes the Patriots would get blacked out, or you could go and scalp a ticket and go to Foxborough and get down there pretty easily and watch the game. But the Patriots, for until they really hired Bill Parcells in my life, that was the only time where anybody thought okay, maybe they're a competent team. And then they drafted Drew Bledsoe, and they got Curtis Martin, and they got, some legitimate quality football players. But I grew up in the Steve Grogan, Moses Tupu, Irving Fryer era, where they just always, Andre Tippett, they just always were 1 or 2 steps behind everybody else. They never were competent. And then Parcells gave them some competency. They obviously brought in Bill Belichick to be the defensive coordinator and had a chance to do some big things. And then Pete Carroll, things didn't go well. And then all of a sudden you go ahead and get Belichick, and Belichick's record up to that point with the Browns, and, can he be a head coach? Is he any good? And then the decision, which you guys obviously were privy to in the AFC Championship game in Pittsburgh, where it was Tom Brady starting. What? Drew Bledsoe,
Yeah.
the $100 million quarterback, the first
Yeah.
guy to make $100 million, is getting benched for a 6th-round pick out of Michigan. What are we
Yeah.
talking? This is the biggest game, AFC Championship game on the road.
Yeah.
And they both played well, and the Patriots won. And that was, I mean, the Steelers and the Patriots, I have such respect for the Steelers and the city of Pittsburgh. And, I've learned so much over the last, 5 years about the traditions of the Steelers and watching what you guys, through my co-host's eyes and watching what had happened. It's such an interesting rivalry because the Patriots really dominated it. And it pissed off you guys in Pittsburgh forever because the little brother just wouldn't lose. And Brady just owned the Steelers. And so that was one of those, to become the king, you had to dethrone the king, and taking down the Steelers as often as the Patriots did with Brady. That was really the key to unlocking a lot of people's belief that the Patriots were a dynasty.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, Bill Cowher struggled against them for sure. Tomlin's just 3-10.
Yeah.
Now, again, against his arch nemesis, but nonetheless, this franchise here in Pittsburgh has certainly struggled with New England. Now, let's talk about the Patriots defensively. They lead the league in sacks after just 2 games with 9. Harold Landry, I think, at the top of the leaderboard, are tied with like 3.5. What do you like about this defense? What have you seen so far through 2 games that excites you?
I obviously the pass rush excites me. It's Mike Vrabel, so you would expect an aggressive defense. You'd expect them to get after the quarterback, and a lot of that, I think, may have been the talent that they've played. I mean, I live in Vegas. The Raider offensive line stinks, and frankly, the Dolphins one is not much better. So I'm not jumping up and down yet at this pass rush. I think Christian Gonzalez, whatever's going on with the hamstring, he's their best cornerback. He's not played yet this season. I mean, if he can come back, I think it could be huge for this defense because they need him. But him not playing today is a massive problem, in particular with DK Metcalf and company coming in here for the Steelers. That worries me. The defensive backs worry me. The Raiders went vertical, and the Raiders put up big numbers throwing the football vertically. Tua did up to a point. But the team speed for the Dolphins really was an exposure there for the Patriots. They don't have a lot of speed on that defense in the back end at the moment. So I expect offense from the Steelers. I expect offense from the Patriots. I think both teams score into the upper 20s. I think this is a shootout here today because I don't like either defense.
Yeah, there's definitely nothing to like about the Steelers defense. They rank in the bottom 8th of total points given up, yardage given up. They've been bad, and a lot was made, Matt, prior to the start of the season. They spent $41 million a year on TJ Watt. A lot of talk on if that was a good decision or not. Cam Hayward out of nowhere, complains at the end of the previous season. They give him a restructured deal. Then coming into camp this year, I need more money. A stalemate, if you will. They give him some signing, bonus opportunities, more of the save face than anything. This defense goes out and gets Jalen Ramsey. They trade Minkah Fitzpatrick. They've upgraded. Some of the players were talking about how this defense could be the greatest of all time. And through 2 games, they have been the nadir. They've been on the other side. When you see situations like this, and I know you're not here and you're not covering this team, what can you attribute what it is when a defense that comes in with all of this ballyhoo, and so far through just a couple games, and not against great opponent. I mean, the Jets, not a fearsome opponent. They won 5 games last year. Seattle 10-7 the previous year, but new quarterback, different systems and things of that nature. What do you think from afar can the Patriots effectively do? And I know their running game isn't exciting, but the Steelers have given up a 100-yard rusher first 2 games of the year. They gave up 181 yards rushing in week 1, 120 against Seattle. What excites you offensively from that perspective, facing this very, very average defense at best?
Yeah, but I'm really worried about the offensive line for the Patriots and worried about Will Campbell. You have a rookie left tackle who is getting better. I mean, Brian Baldwin did a really good breakdown of what Will Campbell has done through 2 weeks. And so he's a first-round pick, a top 10 pick. I mean, you expect him to be the anchor of that offensive line for a long time. And in game week 1 against the Raiders wasn't great. Week 2 against the Dolphins was better. He needs to be on his point here today because I think the Steelers are going to blitz the holy heck out of him today and really prove that he can keep up. The running game for the Patriots is good. I think some people in New England are wondering why Trayvon Henderson has not been utilized as much as they would like. I mean, he's a rookie. I think they're concerned about pass protection with him. I think he's missed a couple of blocks in times that he's been in there on third down. So I think that's why he hasn't been utilized as much as Pats fans would have liked him to have been. But Ramondre Stevenson had a monster game last week. He had a monster game catching the football against the Dolphins, which was somewhat surprising. Stephon Diggs played really well last week, and he's going to need to step up. I think the biggest surprise, watching the Steelers for the first 2 weeks is just the back end and just how many big plays they've given up in the secondary, given who they've got back there and the fact they brought in Jalen Ramsey, and you would expect them to be more competent. So I think from a Patriot fan perspective, that's why I like points. I think vertically the Steelers are also vulnerable to give up big plays down the field, in particular to the tight ends. I mean, the Patriots love throwing, and Drake May loves throwing to his tight ends. I think over the middle, the Patriots are going to have opportunities to move the football with their tight end. So both these defenses are they look kind of mirrors of themselves in a way. They both get after quarterback really well. They're decent against the run, but they give up big plays in the passing attack.
Yeah, no Alex Highsmith for the Steelers this week at outside linebacker, no Deshaun Elliott at safety, and quarterback Joey Porter Jr. Before I let you go, prediction for today. You've already talked a little bit about the points. You say you got like 15 plays today. What do you think is going to end up happening? Who covers this game?
Yeah, I like the best bet in the game is the over. I think 44.5 over. I think that's the best play in the game. I think the Patriots win. I'm a Patriot fan, so maybe I'm a homer, but I think the Patriots at home having an opportunity here just to kind of keep the misery rolling to Aaron Rodgers, who's 0-2 in Foxborough. Patriot fans, I mean, look, he'll always be kind of a Jet. Once you go to the Jets, you have the stink of the Jets on you. So we all Patriot fans will always look at Aaron Rodgers and be like, you played for New York, we hate you. So while we might respect the Steelers, we hate Aaron Rodgers. So I think he's going to be in for it today with a lot of people getting after him. I just think there's a lot of juice in the building today. I think the Patriots get after the quarterback spot. I think they make life kind of a living heck for Rodgers, who has not played well against New England, like I mentioned. So tight game, Patriots by 3, but I think ultimately the Patriots do win the game, but I think it's going to be a high scoring one.
So alt line New England -2.5. I'm just kidding. Right? Hey, the alt lines are, you live and die by those sometimes. By the way, 12-0 in the throwback unis.
Yeah, I don't buy. I hate that trend, but yes, I mean, look. Frankly, the Patriots should be wearing these uniforms full time. Okay, you guys are a legendary. You don't mess around. The thing I love about Pittsburgh and love about the Steeler organization is that the Roonies don't play around. You don't play around with the uniforms. You don't play around with your coaches. You're consistent. You're steady. And you guys are consistently good every single year. You're always over 500. And I know Steeler fans get all mad about Tomlin, but the amount of winning that guy has done, he just wins. I know it stinks to not win championships, but he wins. And he wins, and he wins. You could say he stinks in the playoffs, but he wins. And so the Patriots are, I want them to go full-time Pat the Patriot and get rid of the flying Elvis. I've never liked it. Yeah. It reminds me of the 90s way too much. And yes, the dynasty, but look at the Patriots this year. Look at the way they've worn these throwbacks. I love that they're wearing the throwbacks today.
Yeah, Tampa Bay has their throwbacks today as well with the creamsicle look. Matt Peralt of the Daily Juice and Bostonian versus the Book. You can follow him on X at Sports Talk. Matt, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. Your insight's great. Means a great deal.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy the game.
All right, thank you, Matt Peralt. Hosts multiple betting podcasts out in Las Vegas. Covered Boston sports for a number of years. Was at WEEI in Boston. Go check him out. Very good follow. Sharp guy. We really appreciate him coming on board. All right, this is Steel City Sunday at the North Park Lounge, Richland, and the Hilltop Event Center. Come down. Get up here. Find your way to Route 8, and right on top of the hill, just past the turnpike, if you're coming from the south, get down here and hang out with us. Great food specials. They've got a buffet set up in the back. One price, you get to eat. And then, of course, at 1 o'clock, drink specials and the Steelers game. They've got lots of TVs. I think they've got, in this room alone, 9 TVs to watch football from, and they've got a room in the back. They've got a setup in the back where if you want to play a little virtual golf or some baseball or soccer, they've got a nice setup in one of the other rooms. 16,000 square feet of space here. You're looking for a party to host, maybe something for the holidays. You want to contact the folks here at the North Park Lounge, Richland, and the Hilltop Event Center. They are going to take care of you. So far, so good. We're halfway home on our show today. Again, I'm always a big believer of just, when you have good people to come into your shows and be part of your broadcasts, it just makes a world of difference. And we're barely 2+ shows in, and I like where we're heading with all of this. I think, over the course of time, we're going to grow, and, we're getting some more viewers here on X. I don't know how we're doing on Facebook so far, but just looking at some of the things that I see, I'm pretty pleased with where we're at in terms of what we're trying to provide. You as a Steelers fan, get on board and just take a peek at us. Go follow us on some sort of social media, X, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, at Steel City Sunday. Please do so. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends. Have them tell 10 people as well. In about 10 minutes, we'll have John Murgis come on. We're going to talk with him in our Consigs Picks segment that we affectionately call after Dave Sherapan, Matt's partner out there in Las Vegas, who's been suffering through some health issues. Dave, a native of Pittsburgh, went to Penn State, was an odds maker for many years, professional in the media in Las Vegas, in the gambling community. Consigs Picks at 11:40 with a professional gambler, John Murgis, who ran book for the Chicago Syndicate and Mob in Chicago in the 70s and 80s, which he's a native of the Windy City. He's going to be joining us from Florida. He lives in Florida. He's been down there for quite some time now. Associate of them, not a made guy, but he wanted to make that clear. Super sharp guy. Super sharp guy. Have enjoyed following him on X for a number of years now, and was kind enough to join us. We'll talk a little bit about his background, but we're going to get into gambling and betting on the NFL and how it has changed. Somebody that's, spent a lifetime in that industry and in that world, he's seen a lot. When I talked a little bit about this, I'm 55. I first saw my first parlay card when I was 14. There was a kid that went to high school with me. His father had parlay cards. He would bring them in, and for fun, I worked when I was a kid. My mother had a catering business, and I'd get cash tips on the weekends. So, a $5 bill back then was a big deal. And he was like, "Oh, you can play." I'd play these $5 parlay cards, and I hit 1 or 2 my freshman year, and I was hooked. Like, I knew what the betting lines were when I was like 8, 9 years old, because, people our age, we read a newspaper. I know the young kids that are looking at this now, they're like, what is that? That's a newspaper, folks. And they had something called the ag page in the back, kind of looked a little bit like this. And it had all the numbers at the bottom. It had the betting lines. Back then, you only had the sides and totals. And usually it was just the sides for the longest time. It wasn't until the 80s when you started to get totals in there that they would list on the ag pages of the Press and the Post-Gazette and now the Tribune Review. But the way you handicap games has changed considerably. It's all analytics. It's all computerized now. I learned my first gambling formula when I was 24 when I moved to Las Vegas. To me, betting on a game was about, okay, I like this team better than the other one, or this team does not play well defensively. This one's a little bit better against this one's got a great quarterback. They'll probably score some points. It wasn't until I went to Las Vegas and met professional gamblers like Dave Koken, who passed away late last year, about betting formulas and how you measure yards per attempt and other factors, depending on who the gambler was and what they thought was important into factoring into a formula that they would create to set their own lines. you have the Vegas line, and then as a professional bettor, you have things that you take into consideration based on a formula, and that formula spits out a number. And if it's greater than the sum of the line Vegas has by more than 2, you have some action. You have what's called plus EV, positive expected value. And that's what a professional gambler is looking for. They're looking for positive expected value when they're looking at games based on their analytics and what they see Vegas talking about. So we'll talk a little bit more about that with John Murgis. That stuff fascinates me. It always has. It still doesn't help me when betting, when I bet on games, oddly enough. You can have all the information in the world. If somebody has a bad day and fumbles a football, or what was the game last night? There was a college football game last night where there was like 23 seconds left. The dog in the game had scored a touchdown, and they were covering the number, and they attempted an onside kick, and all they had to do was just kick the onside kick, and the opposing team catches it and falls down, and then the game ends. And what happened? The host that was the favorite, somebody caught the ball on the sideline and ran down for a touchdown and moosed everybody who was on the dog. Those happen. You can't handicap stuff like that. You can't handicap somebody throwing 4 interceptions. You can't handicap somebody returning a couple of kicks for a touchdown. Those are those X factors that do play a role in teams covering against the spread or not. Impossible to cap in that scenario. But as I said, we'll talk with John Murgis here in a few minutes about all of that. I want to bring Bill Akins in here for a couple of minutes. Bill has been sitting here listening to me rant. Do you feel any better? I mean, I do want to ask you about who you think is going to win later when we get towards the end of the show. But has anything changed in the last 90 minutes in your mind? How do you feel about things as they stand now? After you've heard people talk.
Yeah, I mean, nothing's really changed with me. I mean, it's one of those. Listen, I think both teams are kind of evenly matched. I agreed, with our behind enemy lines guest. I think that, obviously there's ways to exploit the Patriots. Talked a little bit about it. I mean, we know they're not the most stout up the middle when it comes on their defense. You could say the same thing about the Steelers. The interior defense has been god awful. So I think, missing Christian Gonzalez, I think, could be an opportunity for the Steelers to attack that secondary, and that's big.
Yeah, I think passing the ball is going to be the key today for both teams.
Yeah.
I think throwing the football, giving some sort of protection to either quarterback is going to result in positive net yardage for each team. The question is maybe who has the ball at the end. And like Matt said, I think it's a 3-point game. I really do. It's going to come down to that for sure, without a doubt. Last possession probably will be the deciding factor in the game.
Yeah. And I think the turnover battle as well, they lost the turnover battle in week 2, the Steelers, against Seattle. To win on the road against a team like the Patriots, you got to avoid turnovers, and you've got to, create yourself some opportunities to take the ball away from them. And, hopefully they can be able to do that this game. I think, that's going to be pivotal. We talked about it before ad nauseum, getting TJ Watt involved. Got to move him around. You got to move him around. I think I kind of have a feeling he's going to have a big game today.
Okay. Well,
he's long overdue. I mean,
Matt talked about the issues they have on the offensive side of the ball and the line for them. So I mean,
right.
You face a front like that, you can spring yourself out of the doldrums that you've been in, quite possibly. I mean, look, and you mentioned this earlier, I think at the top when we were discussing TJ Watt. He's got to figure some things out too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Scheme-wise, they can try to help him, but he's on the field. He's got to figure those things out.
Right. And he is getting double teamed. I get it, but he's also getting chipped. There's a big difference between getting double teamed and chipped. and I just think that there's, I would say in general, John, the defense needs to make more game-changing plays, right?
Right.
They need it, and that includes sacks, turnovers, you know, to turn that, turn the tide of the game, so to speak, if you can, and that's what they need to do today. And like I said, turnover battle is going to be critical. Um, they got to win that turnover battle. It's been a critical factor in past losses. Last week was a prime example of that. So
Yeah, and again, look, the two turnovers they had last week were freaky. All right,
yeah,
I think they credited Caleb Johnson with a turnover on the kickoff,
right.
and then the interception well, Aaron had two picks. He had two picks.
Yeah.
That one that was thrown to Calvin Austin in the end zone.
Yeah.
That Austin should have come back to. Rodgers was visibly upset with him. Went
Right.
off his hands. Got picked off. So they had some flukiness to what happened last week that caused problems for them. Unfortunately, it did not end up in a positive result, and it's a 1-1 mark after two games. We're waiting for John Murgis to join us here in our Consig Pick segment. Is he on board? He is. We're welcoming in professional gambler live from Florida, John Murgis, to our Consigs Pick segment here on Steel City Sunday, and we're excited to be able to bring him on board. John has been involved in the gambling business for quite some time. Native to Chicago, Illinois. There he is right there.
There
Good morning,
you go.
John. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, John. How are you?
Well, we're anticipating I'm anticipating a bloodbath myself, but look, these two teams, we're not confusing the dynasty Patriots with the 70s Steelers here. You've got one that's rebuilding in the method that you're supposed to, right? You draft a young quarterback high. You try to invest in an offensive line and defense to protect him and go about it that way. And then you've got the Steelers who are just kind of like, I don't know. It's I consider I talk about Mike Tomlin, and I have great respect for Mike. 19 years in the league, oldest tenured head coach, never had a losing season, all that great stuff, won a Super Bowl. But I consider him to be like Nero at the end of Rome, right? He's just fiddling away as it burns. And I'm not saying that Mike doesn't put time in and he doesn't put effort in and he doesn't want to win, but this is a very ugly looking 1-1 Steelers team right now, John. I don't know what your thoughts are. I'll ask you from afar, what do you see of the Steelers so far after two games?
Well, the double teaming of Watt is an issue. They've got to get that rush. Jalen Ramsey, he was the star of the week last week. You're going to need him to play. He's going to have to cover everybody. I hate to say it, but dealing with the Steelers team, that's I know you guys in Pittsburgh, you're used to a consistent level of play. You're not really getting that, and but I feel today it's going to be a tough task. It's on the road, as we talked about yesterday, John. We had a short phone conversation, and you mentioned you were spot on. When they travel, Tomlin is a favorite on the road. Is an issue, but. Hey, listen, I'm cheering for the Steelers with you guys. Let's go Steelers.
Okay.
All right. My heart would bleed for you, but as a lifelong Bear fans, you said, you drafted a young quarterback high. The Bears in their hand drafted a high quarterback young.
Hey, at least his nails look good, John, right?
Did I catch some hell for that? I didn't realize he had 988, which I give him a lot of credit for, because especially in these days, guys losing money. You got to be careful. But my comeback to a lot of my friends and everything that are Bears fans was, there's 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. How we have the one guy that's got to have his nails painted, and then they come out with a news story. I follow Mike North, it's Chicago sports legend.
Yes.
Once in a while, we have a little chat, and Mike North has no problem with it because he's friends with Dennis Rodman. Well, Caleb Williams is no Dennis Rodman, monster, and it's a different game. But they have the same kind of aura about them. So the Bear, I'm totally, I'm not done with the Bears. I mean, at 62 years old, I've been a Bears fan my whole life. I'm glad I moved down to Florida 30 years ago in order to kind of catch on with the Bucks. And there's a football team that's going to come out and play today. And as we spoke about, I'm really high on the Bucks today against the Jets. It's 90 degrees right now outside.
Yeah.
It's going to be hot in Tampa. You're asking
Yeah.
for a team to come from New York. They're perhaps in a little bit cooler weather. If Bucky Irvin runs the ball, I think the Bucks have no problem with the Jets today. I mean, that's one of my bets would be,
Okay.
the Bucks.
I want to get into that with you for sure, but I want to talk a little bit about your backstory. And I mentioned it at the top of the broadcast. I was excited to have you on because you've been excited. You've been around professional betting pretty much all your life. I mean, for the most part, you grew up in Chicago. You ran book for the Chicago mob, if you will, and you spent 20 years or close to it, I think, in that life. What have you seen? Let's talk about. Let's start with this. When you first got involved in that life and doing that type of work to make a living, what was it? What was that process? You guys used a service that helped set the line, but you yourself, even just as a professional bettor, how was that like capping games back in the 70s and 80s? What was that all like for you? Talk about that for just a little bit.
Sure. Well, the first thing we did, before football, and we're talking specifically football, is that we'd go get the gold sheet and see, because we knew every one of our bettors looked at the gold sheet point wise, everything else. So we had to get ourselves familiar with what the gold sheet liked, what they were saying, because guys followed along with that. The other thing was getting the line. Early on Sunday morning, late on Saturday night, earlier in the week, but that Sunday morning line's what came into play because you couldn't bet football during the week like you could now. You had to bet Sunday morning, so we'd have to get that line. And if the Bears were back then 85, they were still decent. Ditka was still the coach when I started, or he became the coach in 83 when I started, and the Bears became a different ball club. And so, but as far as league-wide goes, we'd have to go down those lines. Nowadays, as we did the comparison in Vegas, they have so much, at their fingertips in order to not only set the lines, but keep the lines right and get that even action, which is really important. What's important for us. And so, as we talked about previously, what we do is we would, we didn't have a trading room where we could, dump off some of our action. So we had to go to Vegas, dump out the action in Vegas, basically have runners out there and get as much down in cash that we could, because, we had a huge overlay in some games. And those and those guys from Sicily, they don't want to see any overlay.
They want action on both sides.
Yeah, I've had people mad at me in life, but I don't want those guys mad at me or any of my colleagues. Remember, we worked in a boiler room. There was like 30 other guys answering the phone. And we had, we didn't have we didn't have headsets. We had phones.
Good phones. Yeah.
And if you were lucky, you had that phone resting thing for your shoulder, so you can write down. All right. Then we take the paper, we throw it on the pinned, paper pin. A guy would pick it up. Usually, the accountant, we called him, and he would tally everything up, see where we were, come along. And then guys would come up with either chalkboards or whiteboards that would be in front of us, in front of the place. They'd write real big. And if they, if they had to change the lines, they'd wipe it off. They had black marker or white chalk on their hands, and the line would change. And, you always hope for the guy that would call and say, "What are the Bears?" Well, he's betting the Bears. Oh, I'd throw an extra point on.
You're right.
I know. The guy says, "Well, it's 3 in the Sun-Times and the Tribune, and you got it at 4." I'm like, "Listen, call the Sun-Times and the Tribune. Bet that."
That's right.
Good luck with that.
Yeah,
but my famous thing, it was us or Vegas. You bet with the books, and even today, you see that. Because of these crazy, the way things are, and the high money lines, or the discrepancy, I should say, in the money lines, you're getting better value from your street book than you are at DraftKings and FanDuel sometimes. So as we were talking about yesterday, the Hard Rock, which is all we have here in Florida, is the Hard
Right.
Rock, as you know. Their competition is your old school bookmaker
Yeah.
that uses paperhead sites and everything else. I'll bet offshore.
Yeah, I was going to say
because-
Bovada, Bet Online. Those are fairly
Yeah.
popular options for people too. Yeah, without a doubt. John Burgess, professional sports bettor, joining us here on Steel City Sunday, live at the North Park Lounge, Richland, and the Hilltop Event Center. At your peak in your book when you were working back in Chicago, how many clients do you think you had at your peak?
Personally, I had anywhere between 35 to 50 people because we met on a weekly basis. We didn't come up with that meat amount yet. If a guy was down $200, you went and collected the $200.
Right.
So, and most of the time it was collecting. I know the guys in Vegas that run sports books, they don't like to talk about it, but as you know, the numbers don't lie. Over a lifetime, 98%, I'm being generous, 98% of your sports bettors will be net losers.
Yeah.
And so we took in a lot more than we paid off, but it was anywhere from between 35 to 50. We had to know each and every customer. That was rule number one. Know your customers. Sharps existed, but the Sharps were in Vegas. We didn't have sharp players. A couple of guys maybe, but in total, in the whole office, in that particular warehouse, there must have been with 30 guys,
couple thousand,
well over 1,000.
I was going to say close to it. Yeah. Who was your biggest whale? What was your biggest action you took yourself personally from your?
He's dead now.
Okay.
It was a doctor out of Highland Park, Illinois. I'll give his first name. His name was Jules. This guy was a whale. This guy was going 20 dimes a game back then. This is the 80s.
Wow.
I started in 83. 20 dimes a game consistently. He went on an 0-12 streak, and he owed some money. But it was all about the money. That's why I did it for the $1,000 a week coming, basically out of high school. And my friend saying, "Hey, you want to go work for my uncle's buddies?" And what do? They take bets. I'm like, "Yeah, I'll give it a shot." And after that first week, I was locked and loaded. Man, I was in. The money was good. I got a chance to get up to be what you would consider now to be a line manager, where I was the guy up by the chalkboards. But we were calling everybody. We were calling Pittsburgh, New York. If we're playing the Steelers, like we spoke about yesterday, if we were playing the Steelers, the Bears were playing the Steelers, you got all that Pittsburgh money coming into the Pittsburgh boys, and you got all the Bears money coming in. So we were trading with them, and we were evening out our bets, which is, books they still do that, at a more professional scale. There's actually exchanges,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you've already mentioned Tampa Bay as being one of your favorite plays. Let's talk about your hometown team, the Bears.
No chance.
Really? Okay. So, it's funny you mentioned that because, when you're talking about, look, fading the public, right? You hear people talk about fading the public. You want to know what the public's betting on because you want to try to go against that. But there are factors that play into that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're watching any sort of sharp action, you're always looking for handle, right?
Yeah.
You're looking for handle and volume. High handle on the Bears today. That game, I think, is still 1.5. I don't think it has moved just yet. That game's at 425. It actually is down to 1.
Yeah,
it's down to 1. It looks like the books need Chicago today. Your thoughts on your hometown Bears as they host Dallas?
They got cluster injuries on defense. That's going to hurt them. And then we don't know what we're going to get with Caleb Williams. Yeah. Is he going to come out? Is he going to be able to complete a pass, especially timing patterns? He can't get the ball in front of the receiver, throws a lot behind the receiver, and he doesn't throw the ball away. He's still playing like a rookie. And that's the thing. The Bears have had no luck in drafting quarterbacks. And I use this only because they had a chance for Mahomes. They went with Trubisky. The Bears front office hasn't paid, and they just signed the general manager Poles to another extension. For what? What has he shown? But I believe that Dallas, they have their own problems, but I think they're going to be the better coach team today. And it doesn't matter that the game's in Chicago. I mean, it used to be a tough place to play. If you want to go in and get a win, you're hoping to travel to Chicago. So I'm going to fade my Bears today.
Okay.
Go jump with the Cowboys.
Okay. Okay. Any other games that excite you? I mean, we've talked a little bit about the Steelers and Patriots. I think the line is wrong. Matt Peralt, who joined me from Vegas, agrees it should have been a pick. I thought it should have been a pick. Any thoughts on Steelers Patriots today? I know you said you're rooting for the Steelers, but do you think that line? You like that line? People say, "Oh, lines are fishy," and think Vegas sets lines for a reason, right? I know that's.
Yeah,
I believe that
they know.
Right, they do, and I don't think they set lines to trap anybody. I think because they can get trapped themselves, especially with a sharp bettor. We talked a little bit about how you create professional gamblers have a formula, right? Now it's analytics and things of that nature, but Vegas sets a line. A professional sports bettor has their own formula. If they see a difference, they get positive expected value, they get plus EV, they're going to hop on that and exploit that, and that tends to have been successful for sports bettors over the decades. Steelers and Patriots, lines still 1.5. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I had Patriots -1. I mean, believe it or
Okay.
not. I mean,
yeah. That's 2.5 point difference.
It is.
That's big. That's a professional bettor is going to try to take advantage of that. And even if they don't cover, in scenarios like that consistently, they are going to cover the spread more often than not.
They are. No, you make a good point there. I just think that the Steelers have their hands full. New England, let's say they're rebuilding. Okay, they've been rebuilding for a couple of years now. They've actually been rebuilding since Tom Brady left. How long do you give them? But I'm sorry, but I do lean the Patriots today.
Okay.
I will bet the Patriots
Okay.
as after we get off here. But the other game that intrigues me would have to be tonight's game, the 0-2 Chiefs at the 0-2 Giants.
Okay.
Now that game you expect. I think the percentage of the money, highest percentage of the money is on the Chiefs right now. I'd have to check again. But, there's going to be a lot of Chiefs money coming in, a lot of people fading the Giants. Watch what happens. Yeah. Giants pull some crazy upset. That's the way it seems to work.
I don't disagree with you, although I did see to start the year, I think favorites of 4.5 or more are like 13-0 against the number.
Oh, yeah.
Like that.
It's amazing.
And since week 11 last year, I think they're on like a 29-6 run or something like that.
It's amazing. So, it's going against. And in Circus Survivor, there's only 10% of the entries I've lost.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Only 10%. Last year at this time, half were out.
Yeah, it was crazy last year. John Merges, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, John. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll touch base with you. We'll get you back on here in a few weeks. Your insight is just it's wonderful. I can't thank you enough for giving me some of your time, okay?
Thank you so much, John. Guys, have a great day. Good luck, Steelers.
All right, that's it. John Merges, professional sports bettor in Florida, used to run book for some guys that knew a thing in Chicago many years ago, and just a real sharp guy. You can follow him on X, by the way, at I believe it's Merges John, is it not?
Yep. Came out backwards when I set it up.
Worked
All right,
out
guys.
well, though.
You have a great day.
All right, thanks, John.
Thank you.
All right, excellent.
Bye-bye.
That's the end of our Consigs Pick segment here on Steel City Sunday. John Phillips here along with Bill Akins, live at the North Park Lounge, Richland, and the Hilltop Event Center. John Merges and his appearance sponsored by Arch Masonry and Restoration. They are hiring here in Pittsburgh. If you're in the construction trades, if you're a bricklayer, a block layer, if you're a concrete finisher, if you are looking to jumpstart a career with no experience and get into construction labor work, you don't have to have experience. That's not a problem. Arch wants to talk with you. You can learn on the job. They have advancement programs, classes that can jumpstart your career in the building trades. Experienced people. You can call Arch. They are hiring competitive wages, wonderful bonus programs. They've got benefits package that may surprise you. 412-564-5733 or visit archmasonryinc.com to learn more. We are about to start hour number 3 of Steel City Sunday live from the North Park Lounge, Richland, and the Hilltop Event Center. Lot to cover there in that last hour. 2 professional betting experts that came on. One from Vegas, John Burgess, has been involved in the gambling world for nearly 50 years. Certainly insightful in terms of how you might wager your chocolate chip. As Bruce Kyden used to say, John, I'm going to put some chocolate chip cookies to good use this weekend. What do you like? Bruce Kyden, of course, longtime writer for the Post-Gazette, ran Dapper Dan Charities. I produced his radio show back in the early 90s over at 1320 WJAS. Bruce liked to dabble in the lines of the NFL. He was definitely one of those guys. And I would like to tell some more stories about him. Maybe we'll see down the road. He's gone. Sam Nover's gone. Worked with Sammy for a couple of years. They were something else. They're characters truly from a bygone era. Bill Akins, 1 hour to go. Are you feeling any better about today's game? Anything changed in the last 30 minutes?
I mean, not really. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing has changed.
Nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed.
I'm gonna wait to see what they do on a gridiron. That's what I'm gonna wait for. I don't know. It's a I don't know. It's
I'm just going to be honest, straight up. I don't like them today. Look. Would it surprise me if somehow Mike Tomlin gets the ball at the end of the game and can get his kicker in position for a 55, 60-yard kick that he makes? Right? That's how the Steelers win today. I don't think the Steelers win convincingly. I don't think they have a lead, get a stop, and kill the clock to end the game.
Right.
That's not how the Steelers win today. The Steelers win one way today. Their kicker, Chris Boswell, at the end of the game, maybe with a couple ticks left on the clock. That's how this team wins, right? I'm just saying. I cannot see this team winning convincingly today. And I may be wrong, and I've been wrong before. But I am just of the mindset that when I look at this team, and we've had 2 guests on now in the last hour, both saying this game should have been a pick or Patriots -1, and Vegas has it 1.5. Look, this could easily be one of those scenarios where Vegas knows a little bit more than we do. Everybody, money gets more on the Patriots side of things, and the books clean up.
Yeah.
The books clean up. But I just don't see a dominant performance today, and you're going to need that from your defense. Like, I just don't see, with injuries to Highsmith, injuries to Joey Porter Jr., Deshaun Elliott, I don't see, even with with Harmon as getting his first action. The rookie that the Steelers drafted in the first round, I don't see that being enough of an impact where this defense can stop New England from scoring at least 24 points today. I'll be honest with you. I think if they can, and I know they've had offensive line issues, and Matt Peralt brought that up. What if they can't get any pressure on this kid today?
Right.
He's going to tear the defense apart. He's going to slice in anybody who gives 3.5, 4 seconds to throw a football in the NFL against the zone coverages that they see. Someone's going to be open.
Well,
someone's going to be open.
Yeah, and the Patriots like to establish a run on first down. They utilize play action, and I mean that could be hard for the Steelers to defend against. Harmon, Carmen's coming back from this knee injury. I mean, how much is he going to be in game shape? That's my other concern.
Right. Yeah, well, again, the guys that cover the team on a regular basis talking maybe about 10 snaps, maybe 15 snaps perhaps.
Right. Yeah, they're not. Yeah, he's not going to.
Not really sure.
20,
he may not play.
Right.
Yeah, he may not play. It's possible. He may see a couple of snaps and re-aggravate something. We don't know.
He was limited in practice this week.
Yeah.
So it's you kind of want to handle him kind of with kid gloves, I would say, and getting him back. Um, yeah, I mean it's just like I said, they're gonna have to control this run game of the Patriots because, like I said, they like to establish a run on first down, and the Steelers. Let's face it, you gave up 107 to Brees Hall. You gave up what 105 to Walker last week.
Yes.
So, they're going to have to get that cleaned up, and I don't know. I don't, I don't know that there's an easy fix, when it comes to that. So
We're waiting for Paul Zeiss to join us of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Paul should be on here in just a few moments to talk a little bit about this game today. We will get his thoughts on all of that, and hopefully Paul will be on here in just a couple of minutes. In the meantime, we will get you till right about kickoff, probably drop off about 10 till, and so that you've got some time to get prepared for Steelers at New England today with that kickoff at 1 p.m. Go ahead, Bill. Yes.
no, I was just going to say about the Patriots throwbacks. I love them too.
They look great.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they look great.
I mean, especially if it's like a bright sunny day. I don't know that Patriot red. It just it seems to glimmer in the sunshine, and so got a comment here.
All right, we got some comments rolling in on X. What do we got here? I think
Good
we'll
Josh.
see today.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Who
Go
is
ahead.
that? Josh Shaw.
Yeah, I think we'll see today if the Steelers are real or real bad. Yeah, I mean this is a game that they could win. This is a game that they could lose. I mean, I hate to sound like Mr. Obvious, but I mean it's it's
No, you're right.
Yeah.
This is it's not a make or break game, but it's simply a game where if they lose, they've got to play Minnesota next week in Ireland.
Yeah.
And again, another team with a young quarterback and a defense that can be somewhat aggressive.
Yeah. Well, more than likely they're going to face Wentz in that. McCarthy.
That's right. McCarthy's out.
McCarthy's he's going to be out. But nonetheless, I mean, it's it's hard playing in a different completely different time zone across the pond, what have you. I mean, it's so I mean that bodes challenges in itself. So, but I don't know. This is a game. I mean, Steelers need to win this game.
Yeah.
I said, what did 1-8 in the last 9 in New England? Not good. History's not on your side.
Yeah, terrible.
But it's it's a little bit of a different animal than what we've seen in recent years with the Patriots. So
yeah. Well, people are starting to file in here a little bit more at the North Park Lounge, Richland, and the Hilltop Event Center, less than an hour away from kickoff. Steelers and New England. You can come on up here. They've got a breakfast buffet. If you're still hungry, drink specials at 1 o'clock for the game itself. As we await the arrival of Paul Zeiss from the Post-Gazette, should be popping in here in just a few minutes. We'll talk about, we'll get Paul's thoughts on a variety of the subjects that we've already approached. We'll get Zig Fracassi in with us for about 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes or so. He'll join us for his weekly segment. The longtime host and anchor up there at Sirius XM's NFL Radio. He'll be joining us in the broadcast as well. But Paul Zeiss just a few minutes away from coming on board as I'm scrolling through the player props from today's game and what I want to lose my money on. So I'm due for actually, it's been a few weeks since I've hit a parlay. I feel like I've got one in me. I hit one a couple weeks ago, hit a couple in August. And again, if you're going to bet on sports, you want to be a straight bettor, even if it's $10, $20. The lottos are just more for entertainment value for me more than anything else. With 2 kids in my mid-50s, I really don't have a bankroll to be betting as I like to say, spraying nickels and dimes all over the place. But, I always like a good challenge, and a 5-6 legger is always something I'm up to a challenge for when it comes to, trying to pick games against the spread. But we'll look and see at how some of these things play out today as we get ready for Paul Zeiss to join us here, who I think he was confused earlier saying, hey, where is Paul? Yes, I screwed up. I thought I was I was third hour again. If you want me, I'm good for noon. Yes, Paul, we'd love you to come join us for the noon segment. We want to get you in here and get your thoughts as we get prepared for Steelers and New England. Looking at the NFL card, I mentioned some of that earlier today. Let's talk a little bit about the AFC North. Cleveland 0-2, functioning poorly as a franchise per the usual in the mistake by the lake. They're going to be starting Josh Jacobs. He'll be starting today for Cleveland. They will not be starting Joe Flacco. They're going to be facing arguably the best team in the NFL today. The Green Bay Packers have come out just clicking on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. Green Bay on the road, they're laying 7.5. That line is down from 8.5 to begin the betting week. So there has been some sharp action on Cleveland. We'll see if that holds up. We talked a little bit about that with John, that, favored so far in the first 2 weeks, and going back to week 11 of 4.5 or more are 29-6 against the number. They are just dominating play, covering the spread, winning straight up, just being a nuisance to the books in Vegas because the betting public loves to bet the favorites. And I don't mind betting chalk myself, but, it's hard to keep fading those types of numbers because there is always regression to the mean, right? You want to get those numbers back to 55, 53% in terms of one side covering versus the other, favorites and dogs. When there's a big disparity, people will just bet against that trend because they know regression is going to probably happen at some point in time. But, your bankroll suffers as you absorb losses week in and week out. Only so many losses you can take with a bankroll before you're on the street corner peddling pencils and apples. Let us know is Paul in? No, he's not in yet. Hopefully Paul Zeiss can join us here shortly to talk a little bit about the Steelers and Patriots game. Let's go back and talk a little bit more. I think Jordan Love's going to have a big game today myself. I think he throws for 275 and 3 touchdowns. That's just me. I also like Baker Mayfield to have a big game throw the football today. I think he'll have his first 3 touchdown passing game today against a very, very suspect Jets defense. I know John Murr just talked about them running the football. I think Baker Mayfield's finally going to break through today with a big game throwing the football. He had 2 first-half touchdown passes last week in the Monday night game against Houston, and then he didn't throw another touchdown pass. I had him for 3 touchdowns last week. I was a little disappointed in that. Big first half for him, but we'll see how things play out. Also in the AFC North, as we look at some of the other games taking place today, Cincinnati 2-0, tops in the division at Minnesota. The Vikings 1-1. No Joe Burrow for at least 3 months. Got that turf toe injury he suffered last week. Jake Browning going to get I believe it's Jake. It's Browning against Carson Wentz. So that's it's an intriguing matchup. We'll see how that plays out. That could be a shootout, quite frankly. That could be a shootout in Minneapolis today. That's a 1:00 kickoff. So we'll have our eyes on that one. And then, of course, the other team in action in the AFC North is the Monday night game. Boy, is that one going to be a doozy. Detroit is at Baltimore. Both teams 1-1. Phew. Katie bar the door on that contest. That should be fun. So a good week 3, I think, as you look at games in the NFL. There's some other ones that are, I think, are going to be pretty good. That Dallas-Chicago, I think, is going to be better than expected. Arizona-San Francisco at 425, a pair of 2-0 teams out of the NFC West doing battle. So the winner of that is going to be in sole possession of first place in the division, assuming they don't tie one another.
How about the Rams and Eagles?
Another great game.
Yeah.
I thank you very much. I didn't get a chance.
Yeah.
I missed that. That's the other game at 1 o'clock, featuring a pair of 2-0 teams.
Yep.
That game's still sitting at 3.5. The Eagles 3.5 point favorites at home. That was a divisional game last year. That was a good playoff game that the Eagles won going away at the end. That should be a war. And lots of handle on that game, too. I think there are some sharp bettors that might be trying to catch that extra hook in a game where you think it might be 3, but it could end up being 4. So always something to consider. We are at the North Park Lounge, Richland, and the Hilltop Event Center. Good afternoon, Steeler Nation. John Phillips with you. Bill Akins alongside of me. This is Steel City Sunday. 3 hours of pregame coverage before every Steelers game, and then immediately following the contest, live back here for about 2 hours worth of postgame. Jerry DePaula, longtime writer here in Pittsburgh, will be joining our postgame show this week. So we're very excited to talk to Jerry D after the game. He's going to join us for postgame. In October, John Fedko is going to be joining us. We're very excited to be able to do this for you each and every week, and I feel like things are going to grow through the course of the season. We're hoping to have some another big announcement next week about a potential partnership with somebody here in the Pittsburgh area, and that's involved in Steelers related entertainment, if you will. We'll just put it to you that way. We're trying to grow and grow quickly and establish some strategic partnerships. And, of course, this one here with the North Park Lounge Richland and the people at the North Park Lounge Restaurant Group, Mark Baranowski. We can't thank you enough. We can't do this show without your help. And again, folks, 16,000 square foot facility. If you're planning something for the holidays and you're not sure where to do it, they are more than capable of handling your needs. They have a beautiful facility here. They're prepared to handle groups of all kinds of sizes. You want to reach out to them and ask them about their catering and event center here, North Park Lounge and the Hilltop Event Center right here on Route 8 in Gibsonia. A few minutes away, hopefully, from getting Paul Zeiss on board. Let's try to get let's get Zig in here. Is Zig in or is Paul in? We got Paul now. All right, Paul Zeiss joining us. Good afternoon, Paul. How are you downtown today?
No, I am actually at Cedarbrook Golf Course, and I had to be very creative in a way to figure out how to get hooked up. But I figured it out. I got myself hooked up in a way that I think I'll be good for the rest of the hour, and that's always good. I had played around the golf this morning, and then I was trying to figure out if I could get to my house by noon, and I was like, no, I can't. So let me figure out if there's a place I can set up, and I got set up really well, but it was a problem of getting on the internet. But
my goodness!
But now I figured out I'm on the internet here. So thanks to I gotta say thanks to John from Cedarbrook.
Okay,
for always taking care of me and making sure that I can get on the air when I need to.
How'd you hit him today?
I hit him actually really well, which is kind of my golf game. Here's my golf game in a nutshell, John. Let's see. 3 days ago I played. I shot 102. 2 days ago I played. I shot 81. And today I went out in 39 and thought this might be the day I break 80, but I came back in 43, so I shot 82. So in my last 4 rounds, I have 2 rounds over 100 and 2 rounds under 85. That's my game in a nutshell.
Okay. Well, if anything, you're inconsistent with the consistency of your inconsistency, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't.
here's the thing. I tell people I'm the best like 18 handicap in the world because I can shoot 81 or 82. Of course, I could shoot 105 as well. But if you put me in an event and I shoot well, I actually can win for you because my handicap is like 17 or 18 or whatever.
I was going to say in a handicapped event where you're playing with a group, you would probably be fairly effective, I would think.
Or I'll be terrible. I mean,
or you'd be terrible.
There's no in between. There's
no in between.
I played. I'll tell you a funny story. I played an event with a bunch of guys. It wasn't an event, but it was like there was like 12 of us. 3 foursomes.
Sure.
And we played from actually this was a couple years ago, but we played from the this not the pro tees, but the back tees.
Okay.
At Old Stonewall, which Old Stonewall's hard as hell anyway, but from the back tees. But then you go to the pro tees, and that's a whole different game. But the back tees is ridiculous. And at the time, my handicap was like 23, 22, 23.
Okay.
I shot 80. So I won all the money, and of course they all screamed at me that I was a sandbagger. I said, listen, I swear to you, I could go out here tomorrow and shoot 120. I swear to you. They want to hear that. But anyway.
It was like that scene in Rounders when they got caught cheating and all the cops beat everybody. Poor Paul Zeiss getting ganged up on by a bunch of golfers because you sandbagged them.
Luckily, a few of the guys that were playing had played with me before, and they said, "Oh yeah, you haven't seen this guy when he's bad."
Very capable of shooting 106.
I'm capable of shooting 120, John. I am. That's the point. But today, I shot 82. Yeah, last round I think it was 81, and the round before that was like 101 or 102. So that's who I am.
I swear this is not a golf show previewing the Ryder Cup coming up this week. Hey, all right, let's get into the nitty-gritty here. I'm expecting Armageddon today. I think the wrong team is favored. Issues galore. The defense scares me even more now when you've got 3 supposedly key people on a defense that's given up 65 points and nearly 800 yards in 2 games, but they've got no Joey Porter Jr., no Highsmith, no Deshaun Elliott. What do you make of this mess, Paul, after 2 games?
Who's the guy? Who's the famous guy that says that the wrong team's favored?
Oh, jeez, I forget. Not Lee Corso. Is it Corso or one of those guys from ESPN or no?
It's one of these handicapper guys.
Okay.
But he always goes on with the wrong team's favorite. But anyway.
The Stu Feiner maybe or somebody like that.
Yeah. So basically you're talking about the fact that you don't think that the Steelers should be favored.
I don't.
By 1.5. Here's one of the things I'll tell you. It's interesting. I wrote a story on Friday for the Post-Gazette about the fact that I think that the Patriots, by going to a place where they were 4-13.
Yes,
may actually be. Even though I don't know player for player, they're better than the Steelers right now. They might actually be ahead of the Steelers in terms of their rebuild after having, elite quarterbacks, Roethlisberger and Brady.
Right.
Because they did go 4-13 and they drafted the 3rd overall Drake May. I don't know if Drake May is that guy yet. But I feel like he's got a shot to be that guy. He's pretty good. And here's what I'm going to tell you. I don't believe that Mike Vrabel's the guy to get them all the way to the Super Bowl. But I do believe that Mike Vrabel is the guy to get them from 4-13 to where they're 9-8, 10-7 type of team. That's kind of where his wheelhouse is. He's he's very organized. He's disciplined. They play hard. They're going to play really hard-nosed kind of brand of football. You can – and I think the bottom line is if they do all those things and Drake May is who we think they are, maybe Mike Vrabel is the guy that gets them back to where they need to get to. I kind of like the Steelers to win this game, but I don't know why. That's the worst part. And so you and I are probably in a place where we're similar, where I look at the Steelers and say, am I doing that thing where I just sort of overrate the Steelers simply because, they're familiar and we say, well, Rodgers will be good and the line will be good and the defense will be good and all this other stuff. I just don't know if that's the case.
I'm on board with you there. I'm thinking this is setting up to be a pretty ugly game. I mean, look, and one of our guests earlier, Matt Peralt, who lives in Vegas, does a gambling podcast, covered the Boston sports scene for a while at WEEI. His concern is their offensive line, protecting their quarterback, their young quarterback. And when you look at them, if you just look at the Patriots roster, there's nobody that really jumps off the page outside of Drake May. I mean, they've got a wide receiver who's spent like 12 years in the league that he can throw the football. Nobody really stands out in terms of what they have to run the football, throw the football. That doesn't really scare me. But they're facing a defense that's just done nothing over 2 games, and it's not like they were playing the 86 Bears or one of these 85 Bears or one of these great the Ravens of 2000 with their stellar defenses. They played the Jets, and they played a very average Seattle team, and they got torn up. Their defense got torn up in both games. It's a concern. Because there's no easy fix. I know they brought 5 offensive linemen in this week to try out because they lost somebody to injury, right? I mean, it's a circus almost to think that Mike Tomlin at 19 years in, the rebuild that the Patriots are doing. You're absolutely right. You see them doing it in the way that you're supposed to, whereas here it's like, we'll pill this guy. He won a Super Bowl years ago. That didn't work out. We'll bring this kid in. Oh, he was 4-2, but we're going to just let him go. We're going to bench him, and then he doesn't play again. And all right, we'll bring in this guy, maybe one of the greatest of all time. Spend all this money on the defense, and it's ugly. I think it's going to be another high-scoring, ugly game today. Then the only way they win is by having a chance with Boswell from 55 plus at the end. That's the way I only see them winning. I can't see them winning by 7 and then shutting New England down and running the ball and closing it out like that.
One of the things that was evident about this team, John, preseason, going into this season, whatever, is that they weren't particularly deep in a couple of areas, right?
Right.
They have no depth on their offensive line,
Right.
Zero depth. And quite frankly, watching Mason McCormick play last week, watching Troy Fautanu play last week, I'm starting to wonder if they have even 5 guys that are good enough. Those 2 guys haven't, I know I'm in a minority here, but I'll tell you, I really believe that Broderick Jones is going to be okay. I know that I'm in the minority. I know that there are people saying, well, what have you seen that makes you believe that? I'm telling you what I see. I see a guy that really got better from week 1 to week 2. And I think if he gets comfortable, he'll be fine. I worry about Troy Fautanu. I worry about Mason McCormick because, you know what, for all the talk about how he's a bulldog and all this other good stuff, you know what, he got thrown around like a dish rag a little bit last week. Yep. So to me, we look at a lot of different things with the Steelers. We never want to talk about their depth, but I think their depth on their offensive line is bad. I think as we've seen before, the depth on the defensive line is not good. Yeah. And I think the other part of it is, if that's the case, you can't take many injuries, period. Because if you do, you're not going to be able to compete. But I actually am still worried about the 5 starters when it comes to the offensive line. And to be honest, if they can't block somebody, I feel like their run defense will be a little better this week. But I honestly think this. It's one of those things where it is going to be interesting to see if Fautanu and Mason McCormick can get better. But one other thing about the run defense, Derek Harmon is active today, which I'm presuming means he might be playing some today.
Right.
That could be a big boost to their run game. That's why they drafted him. Run defense. That's why they drafted him. They drafted him because he's a guy who allegedly will take on double team blocks, will fight his rear end off, in the run defense, will keep blockers off of those two inside linebackers, will give Cam Hayward the ability maybe to make some plays. I mean, I know it's putting a lot on a rookie, but that's why they drafted him. So I think it could change the dynamics completely. I worry about the offensive line. I think if Harmon, a couple weeks in, I think with him healthy, they'll be fine on defense.
Paul Zeiss of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette joining us here on Steel City Sunday, live from the North Park Lounge, Richland, and the Hilltop Event Center. Paul, brought to us by Arch Masonry and Restoration. They are hiring here in Pittsburgh, folks, bricklayers, block layers, concrete finishers, and labor help. Even if you have no experience, that's no problem. You can learn on the job. They have advancement programs and classes that can jumpstart your career in the building trades. Call Arch Masonry, 412-564-5733. Or visit their website at archmasonryinc.com. Let's bring in Zig Fracassi of SiriusXM's NFL Radio to join the rock and roll party here. Zig, good afternoon. How are you?
JP, I'm doing well. Paul, how are you?
I'm wonderful. What's going on?
Doing okay. The day of the backups around the NFL should be interesting, huh?
Yeah. I know you had mentioned, you alluded to that via text message earlier. We'll get into that for sure. There's no less than 5 backups playing in games today. Just want to get your quick thoughts, Zig. Steelers and Patriots. I think the wrong team is favored. Critical game for both, especially when you're talking about in 13 or 14 weeks, if they're jockeying for position for a wild card spot or some sort of playoff spot. Your thoughts on today's game from Gillette?
Well, I think if you look at the history here, and again, a lot of it's because of Tom Brady and everything, the Patriots have been wildly successful. And, you got to wonder, too, and, I had to discuss this with Todd Haley on my show yesterday on NFL Radio, the fact that it was a big weekend for New England. Julian Edelman goes into their Hall of Fame. Bill Parcells goes into their Hall of Fame. You got to wonder if a traditional guy like Vrabel doesn't use that as a little bit of motivation as well. So I got to think that I think New England probably should be the favorite in this game.
Fair enough. Let's talk a little bit about some of the other games where you're going to see some backups. The Bengals Minnesota game for sure. Couple of backups in that one. The Bengals 2-0 to begin the season. They're at the top of the division, but they are without Joe Burrow for at least the next 3 months because of that turf toe injury last week.
Yeah, and that's the presumption, JP, that it's 3 months. Now, it could be until he's able to get back onto the field, start working out. It could actually be a little bit longer than that. So Jake Browning's a guy that I've always had a big admiration for. Gosh, I go back to his sophomore year at the University of Washington, 47 touchdown passes, and I thought this kid was going to be the real deal. Unfortunately, he banged up his shoulder in one of the bowl games. It was either that year or the following year, and his career really hasn't been the same. But he's a smart type of guy. He's got some energy, and I think in the short term could fill. I mean, he did play 9 games for the Bengals a couple of years ago. And then on the Minnesota side, obviously they moved on from Sam Darnold. They thought maybe they could, hang on to Danny Dimes before he went to Indianapolis. So now Kevin O'Connell, the so-called quarterback whisperer, brings in Carson Wentz, a guy who's got starting experience. Maybe it's, a blessing in disguise, if you will, if McCarthy sits down a little bit, learns, even though he's hurt, God forbid, but still that he learns a little bit. He's got a good lineup to work with. So, Cincinnati, Minnesota, this could actually still be a pretty good game, even though you've got the backups playing in it.
We're talking with Zig Fracassi of SiriusXM's NFL Radio. We've got Paul Zeiss from the Post-Gazette. Paul, looking at the schedule today, Cleveland and Green Bay, that line has gone down to 7.5. Jordan Love and the Packers. Boy, have they just been dominant through the first 2 games.
Well, let me just say one thing about Jake Browning. If I said this earlier this week, if you're a fantasy owner, you should pick him up for these next 2 weeks because he's certainly going to go off, right? Isn't that what he does for like 2 weeks? He loses his mind, goes off for like 380 and 4 touchdowns, and then he wakes up and remembers he's Jake Browning. So the Bengals will probably figure, I figure the Bengals might go 2-0 or 1-1, and they'll be 3-1 over the next couple of weeks, and then we're going to see them go in a sharp decline when Jake Browning figures out that he's Jake Browning. Usually takes him about 2 weeks. He's that guy. Sort of like, what was that guy's name? Fitzmagic. Same kind of guy, right?
Yeah, Ryan Fitzpatrick.
You put him in, You know what I mean? And everyone go, why isn't this guy a starter in the league? And then, of course, like 2 weeks later, it's like, oh, okay, get
Now
this
we
guy
know
the hell
why.
out of here. So as far as Green Bay goes, I don't know that Green Bay's done a ton of heavy lifting yet, but I do think the one thing that's good from their standpoint is that they actually, I think, are really good on both sides of the ball. And that probably gives them an opportunity to legitimately be one of those teams that is right there for like the first or second seed in the NFC. Especially they got sort of lucky that they got to play the Lions in the first week. And of course, it looked like the Lions weren't ready to play, or they were disorganized or whatever. And Green Bay got that win. That could be really big coming down, the stretch. I like Green Bay. I like Jordan Love. I still think he needs to show that he can be more consistent than he is. He's still a little too feast or famine for me, but I like, the Green Bay Packers and the way they do things. I like, obviously, I got to give a shout out to my guy, Jeff Hafley, the defensive coordinator, which I think he's really good. And I tell you what's funny, as an aside, Jeff Hafley was a GA at Pitt under Wani. When Wani came to Pitt,
like 06, 05 or 06, right? 06?
05 was his first year. But
yeah, okay.
But Jeff Hafley actually was like, I want to say he was like the secondary coach at like Hofstra, right? And Dave Wanstead says, my man, come, so he, like Jeff Hafley, literally, in order to get the GA job at Pitt, like wouldn't take no for an answer. And finally, Wani was like, if you want this damn job so much, come take it, right? This was a dude when he was a GA, was sleeping in his office most nights, watching film. That was him. Everybody knew, and by the second year, he was a secondary guy. He was a secondary coach or whatever. But I got to know him really, really well when he was at Pitt, and he is a driven guy. He's a smart guy, right? In fact, here's one other quick one. Dave Wanstead said, listen, we need to do better in recruiting in New Jersey. So Jeff was like, well, I'm kind of, that's kind of my, wheelhouse there. Give me a car and a room at the Marriott there in, Newark or one of those.
Piscataway or something like that, yeah.
And I'll make it happen. And literally his first year out there when he was out, he stayed at this Marriott for like a month. He got like 6 or 7 commits in his first year, including guys like, like Ray Graham, who was a really good running back for them. Sure. Dion Lewis, who was a really good running back for them. Yep. I mean, he like brought in guys. So to me, I root for the Packers, but because I love Jeff Hafley. But I think the other thing is he's a really good coach. Their defense is going to be really good this year, and they got Jordan Love playing at a pretty high level. I think they've got good skill position guys. I love the Packers, and of course I love them against the Browns because the Browns stink. But go ahead.
Yeah. And to piggyback on the backup quarterbacks, Cleveland making a switch after just 2 weeks. Are they? I mean, Flacco's not starting, is he? I don't think he is.
Yeah, he is.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of the Jets. My fault. That's what I wanted to talk to you about. Jets and Tampa Bay. Well, there's a quarterback change there.
Tyrod's in for Fields because Fields
injury. Yeah.
Can I say one other thing?
Yeah, sure.
The world revolves around the University of Pittsburgh Wani era because Joe Flacco was at Pitt when Wani was there and actually lost the starting quarterback job, so he left and went to Delaware.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Paul's on it. I love it.
Yeah, he is. What do you think of that Tampa Bay game today? The Jets, but they're not good, and now they got to play with a backup quarterback, and it's they're wearing the creamsicle uniforms. It's throwback day today.
Hot,
there,
dude.
super hot. It's going to be almost 100 degrees, if not over 100 on the field. The Jets are in for a long day, I would think, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, not only hot, JP, in terms of the weather, but those creamsicle jerseys, all white. They're absolutely tremendous. By the way, if you get a chance, go back to watch it. The NFL Today went retro, the 50th anniversary of when that started. And Brent's there, and he was doing You Are Looking Live at this stadium.
Great.
It's tremendous, absolutely tremendous. But to that game, only thing that concerns me a little bit, Bucks are off a short week, tough game. Still some key injuries, but I think they'll have enough to beat the Jets.
Paul Zeiss of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette joining us. Zig Fracassi of Sirius XM's NFL Radio on with us as well. Steel City Sunday rolling on from the North Park Lounge, Richland, and the Hilltop Event Center. What else intrigues you today, Zig? I mean, that Rams game in Philadelphia at 1 o'clock, another doozy rematch from the divisional last year.
Yeah, hopefully for the Rams' sake, they get a little bit, slight bit of revenge, because I thought they should have won that game last year, but we all remember the Kyron Williams fumbled late in that contest, and unfortunately it set them back. It was interesting to see that they actually flew back to LA and then flew out yesterday to Philadelphia. Some teams actually stay in the East Coast, or if it's out west, they stay out west for the whole week, but the Rams decided not to do that. I think the Rams right now may be the one team that could probably compete with Philadelphia. Even the Eagles at 2-0 realize maybe they got to open some things up offensively. Hurts and Saquon have both been good, but maybe not what we expected. But then remember last year, guys, they started 2-2 before they went on this ridiculous tear to win the Super Bowl. But I don't know, I'm shading a little bit towards the Rams in this game today.
Late card has another 2-0 matchup versus 2-0 teams. You got Arizona at 2-0. A little surprise there, maybe, and San Francisco 2-0. That's a really good game too to watch in the 4 o'clock window.
Yeah, I would caution Arizona's 2-0. JP comes against New Orleans and Carolina, but again, if you're a team aspiring to be at least a playoff contender, you got to beat the ones that you should. And so far, they've done that. And on San Francisco's side, Mac Jones, again, it was against New Orleans, but it looks like Mac Jones shows that maybe, it's one game, but if he has to continue to play a little bit, who knows if he's not the next Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold, guy who was a first-round pick, stumbled wherever he was, but then he gets a system like San Francisco's, he restarts his career, and maybe he's in the market for a starting gig once again. So I'll shade to the Niners in that one.
Paul, you like anything in that matchup? That's two good games. The Rams and Eagles early, and then Cardinals and 49ers at 4:25.
I love the Rams defense. I'm also going to be very, very interested in figuring out how they're going to officiate the tush push. I think it's very clear. It's very clear. They actually even said it this week that they're going to officiate it tighter, which that's
just unbelievable.
Something very interesting to me. What does that mean? Because the bottom line is you only need to call, false start once, and now it's 4th and 6 instead of 4th and 1.
Right.
And now all of a sudden they can't do it. So really, say they get 2 or 3 of those 4th and 1s or 3rd and 1s or whatever, if it's a false start and they call it every single time, that could be a way where you start to legislate that play out of the game.
Yeah, I don't like that. I hate the whole idea. You know what I mean?
I just want them to officiate the play the right way. That's
right,
all I care.
And that's it. You either stop the play or you can't.
No, John, last week there were 2 times where the guard next to the center
blatantly false start.
Was
then they got to throw the flag.
Over the line and had blown up there before the ball was snapped. It should have been a false start. I just want it to be officiated correctly. That's all.
I agree. Fair enough. But, look, the league met prior to the season regarding that play and whether or not they were going to ban the play, which I thought was absolutely nuts, right? I mean, you either stop the play or you don't. The league shouldn't play. Teams shouldn't. Ownership shouldn't be coming in and saying, "Well, we got to ban this play." You're right. If the officials are missing false starts on it, you got to throw the flag. Right. But teams have to figure out how to stop that play. And to the credit, to the credit of the Eagles, it's a lot harder to
stop when your guards are getting a half a second, ahead of whatever
of the play.
You're right. You're absolutely right. That's fair. Last game I want to talk about, Monday night game, Lions at Ravens. Ravens should be 2-0. They're not. Detroit came out, looked flat in that first game at Green Bay, as Paul had mentioned. Any thoughts on that, Zig?
Yeah, Baltimore has some key injuries here. Likely he's not going to play again. Looks like Van Noy is out. Detroit, a couple of key defenders, Campbell and I think Joseph are questionable in this one. Detroit seems like they're a different team outdoors. home lights on Monday night, I'd probably lean towards Lamar and the Ravens in that one.
Excellent. Zig Fracassi of SiriusXM's NFL Radio, our NFL insider, joining us. Zig, always a pleasure, buddy. I'll catch up with you during the week sometime, okay?
Thanks, JP. And then tonight, after Chiefs and Giants, Matt Sims and myself on NFL Rewind till 2 a.m. Eastern, Channel 88 in the SiriusXM app.
Absolutely got it. My man, Zig Sports Voice on X as well. Thanks, Zig.
All right, buddy. Paul, take care.
Yeah, good seeing you.
All right, buddy. You too.
All right. Paul Zeiss for just a few more minutes before we wrap up the show here. Paul, I'm going to give you 5 games. Okay, we're going to pick against the number. The numbers that I have are they're close enough. Let's just put it to you that way. Right. Steelers are minus 1 now. Oh, hold on here. Let me just check this.
Can I just ask you a question, John?
Yeah, sure.
I'm amazed that you haven't gotten us a gambling sponsor yet so that we can have like official lines, but go ahead.
Hey, listen, I'm a man of many hats. You know what I'm saying? I'm working on it, buddy.
Saying, like,
I know.
If there's anything that we're going to definitely have as a sponsor, it's going to be that.
As much as I talk about gambling, we should probably. I'll tell you what. I'll head down to the Rivers. I got to go back on the road this week. If I find 10 minutes, I'll have one by the end of the year. I swear. I promise. So Steelers are down to 1 right now. Everybody's hopping on New England. Steelers -1. Who do you like on that one today?
Again, I like the Steelers. I like the Steelers to win. I think it's going to be not a really fun game to watch. Which could probably summarize most of the Mike Tomlin era that doesn't involve, Ben Roethlisberger and the Killer Bees. I like the Steelers to win this game. I could see it being some kind of game where it's like 17-13 or something like that, or, something really just not all that interesting. But I like the Steelers to win and cover.
All right. Green Bay is now 7.5 on the road at Cleveland. Who do you got there?
I'll be honest with you. I know this is going to be crazy, but that hook has me, buddy. I like the Brownies to cover 7.5. I think, at home, I think, again, Green Bay has been a team that has won, but at times they've looked shaky. The Browns are going to, have one of those games where they figure it out for at least 3 quarters. So I like the Browns plus the 7.5.
All right. I like this New England +1, by the way. I actually have them on the money line. I'll take Green Bay -7.5. I think these favorites the first 2 weeks, going back to week 11 of the NFL, they're 29-6 of 4.5 or more. The favorites are covering at a crazy clip. Houston +1.5 at Jacksonville. We haven't really talked much about that game today. I bring it up because I thought Jacksonville was within a hair of being 2-0, and a lot has been said about Trevor Lawrence the past few seasons, but I think this is his breakout year. I think this is the year he can actually deliver for Green Bay. Your thoughts on a Texans team that has been very disappointing? They're 0-2. What do you think about today's game in Jacksonville -1.5 at home against Houston?
I tell you, I can't figure out if what's his name, C.J. Stroud, is that the
that's right.
quarterback's name?
Yep.
I can't figure out if he's a good player or not. I think he is. You know what I'm saying? And the funny thing is, I can't figure out if Trevor Lawrence is a good player either. So to me, I think you've got 2 teams with 2 sort of big name, high draft pick quarterbacks that are still trying to figure out or find out if they've got the guy. Now, of course, Jacksonville gave the guy a whole lot of money, so they better be right. But the reality is, in Jacksonville, I kind of like Jacksonville to win this game. I know that, Houston will go to 0-3, and so that's a consideration. But to me, I feel like Jacksonville is better coached than they've been. I think Trevor Lawrence is probably, starting to find his stride. So I agree with you. I'll go with Jacksonville in this game.
I'm on the same side as you. Rams at Philadelphia, Eagles -3.5.
I like in this game, I told you I like the Rams defense a lot. I think they're tough. But, and there's always a but the Eagles are probably the most complete team in the league. And when healthy, they probably are much better than just about anybody they're going to play. Yeah. The only team that probably has a similar roster is Baltimore. And I feel like when you look at this matchup, I think the defensive line of the Eagles is going to make Matthew Stafford probably consider retiring like after the game. So to me, I like the Eagles to win. I like them to cover. I like them to be, a team that probably every single week we're talking about as long as they're healthy.
All right. Eagles minus 3.5 for Paul. I say Rams plus 3.5. Last game, San Francisco now down to 1.5. 1.5. San Francisco at home against Arizona, a couple of 2-0 teams.
Isn't Mac Jones starting for San Francisco?
He is. He absolutely is.
You know what? I'm going to go with I'll go with the 49ers.
I'm on this. I agree.
I like the 49ers at home. I think Mac Jones is probably similar to Brock Purdy. So the only problem, the 49ers can't keep all of their skill guys healthy, but I kind of like them actually to win this game and probably win that division, even if Brock Purdy's not healthy.
Okay, I like San Francisco minus 1.5 as well. Paul, I promise by the bye week we'll have a gambling sponsor.
I'm just saying, to me, I mean, with you and I talking, I figured somebody would call up to the show and say, "Hey, you two, yes, we're going to make sure that we take care of you two."
All right. I promise you, by the time we get to middle October after the bye week, I'll have it done. That's my promise to you. Okay, buddy?
That sounds good. I mean, like I said, I'm looking forward to today's game, obviously,
yep.
And I think a key matchup again is going to be. Is Derek Harmon fully playing? Fully healthy, fully playing.
Healthy.
And if he's fully healthy and fully playing, I think we'll see a difference in the run game, John. I really do. Now,
okay.
Again, that's a lot to put on the rookie, but I'm just telling you that.
That's fair enough. Paul Zeiss of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Paul, thank you. We appreciate you coming on board every week, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's always a good time. We'll talk to you.
All right, excellent. Paul Zeiss, live from some golf course somewhere. Cedarbrook Golf Course. There you go.
Country club conditions with public prices. That's their stick. Right?
That's it. All right. Sounds like an advertisement. Thanks, Paul.
All right. We'll see you, man.
All right. That just about wraps us up here for today. I'm going to bring Bill Akins in here for one final moment. Bill, you got any thoughts on these games? I know you're not a gambler. Last thought.
I'm
out of here.
I think this Rams-Eagles game. I think that's one to watch. I think it's going to be a very good game. And I hate to say it, but so the battle of the 2-0, right? Rams and Eagles.
Right.
Tonight, I can't. The 0-2 Chiefs. Versus the 0-2 Giants. Now, listen. I think the Chiefs are still going to make the playoffs. I don't know if they win the division, though. I don't know if they win the division. I think they're still going to make the playoffs. But I think at some point they're going to get off the schneid here, and I think it's going to be tonight against the Giants.
Okay.
So.
My man, I appreciate it. All right, that's it, folks. Enjoy the Steelers game. As soon as it's done, you come on back. We'll have live post-game coverage here from the North Park Lounge, Richland, and the Hilltop Event Center. Jerry DePaula will be joining us for our post-game show to break down Steelers and Patriots. For the entire cast and crew, I'm JP saying thanks for joining us here on X, Facebook, and on Facebook, X, and not Instagram, but YouTube as well. We'll talk to you in a few hours. We'll see if the Steelers are victorious. I don't like their chances today, but who knows? It is the National Football League. We'll see you when the game's over.